Jason Ross, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's meeting. We have 48 articles tonight, so please be respectful of people's time and do not repeat points that have already been discussed. Be nice. At this time, please join me in welcoming Reverend Paul Ring from St. Anne's Church for the invocation.
Let us pray. Good and gracious Creator, as we gather, we call to mind former Selectman Charles H. Johnson and commend him to your eternal care. We come together on this night to discuss the wants and needs of our community. Whether we speak as private citizens or public officials, may we engage in the business of the town in a polite and civilized manner. May we respect one another's differences and actively listen with generous hearts. May the work we accomplish be done with the common good in mind. May all this be accomplished under your guidance and direction. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you. Now please stand and welcome Boy Scout Troop 25 for the presentation of flags and join the Girl Scouts in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, the Girl Scouts can come out now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is Haley Devery here? Okay. Do we have any volunteers who would like to sing the Star-Spangled Banner? Not me.
Can we just YouTube it? Group effort?
All right. Yeah, great. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That's great. Now, please join me in a moment of silence for all the town officials, town employees, and town honorees that we've lost since the last time we met. Charles H. Johnson, former selectman. Thank you. I would now like to invite, at this time, the Board of Selectmen will present a proclamation to Mr. Ross Duggan. I'd like to introduce the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Eldon Moreira.
Yes, I would like to recognize Ross Duggan. Step forward here. I want to welcome you here and your family here. Proclamation. The Board of Selectmen, West Bridgewater, Massachusetts. Whereas the town of West Bridgewater recognizes the values and heroism, the acts of courage, and whereas on February 6, 2019, Ross Duggan braved fierce flames, risked his life as he pulled 4 people from a burning vehicle on Route 24 in West Bridgewater. Whereas the courage and action and averted what could have been a tragic loss was an act of heroism which deserves special recognition. Resolved, we, the Board of Selectmen, Town of West Bridgewater, do hereby congratulate and honor Russ Duggan for his bravery and selflessness. And further, the Board extends their sincere thanks on behalf of the individual involved. And further, the Board extends their heartfelt appreciation for historic action. In witness thereof, we hereunto set our hands, caused the great seal of the town of West Bridgewater to be affixed on the 3rd day of June 2019. Board of Selectmen, Eldon F. Moreira, Chairman, and Denise Reyes, Vice Chairman, and Anthony Kenahan, Clerk. Thank you.
I'd like to read you a little bit more about what Ross did that day. And start with, our town meeting is said to be the purest form of a democratic government. Citizens are the decision makers. Before we move on to our town's financial business, we ask for a few minutes to talk about the purest form of heroism and introduce you to Ross Duggan. In February, Ross was passing through West Bridgewater on Route 24 on his way home from work when he witnessed a car fire with 4 individuals trapped inside. He did not stop and think about the situation. There was nothing to gain, just the right thing to do. Heroes don't act kind or generous with an expectation of being recognized. In today's age, communication travels at the speed of light, but yet an act of selflessness may not go viral. Ross Duggan was driving home from work. He saw the car in flames and people trapped inside. He stopped and broke out a window which enabled 3 of the passengers to escape the flames. A second Good Samaritan stopped with a fire extinguisher, and his aid enabled the 4th passenger to escape the flames. It is so difficult to put into words how incredibly selfless Ross's actions were that day, but to truly appreciate what an outstanding and humble young man he is, you have to know that after suffering 2nd-degree burns to his head and hands, he said, "The real hero is the man who ran over with the fire extinguisher, because without him, I don't think I would have been able to step in. I couldn't see and couldn't breathe. Thank God for him." Ross Duggan, thank God for you. It is people like you that make this world a better place. Thank you for passing through West Bridgewater that day, and thank you for being who you are. Yes, you can go over. Anthony would like to say something.
Ross, although you can never be repaid, we have a small token of appreciation for your daughter, Brenna. Makes you know how heroic her father was on that day.
That was awesome. Thank you. I would now like to invite Police Chief Victor Flaherty to come up and present the Victor R. Flaherty Senior Civic Award.
Thank you, everyone. This award was created to honor and remember Victor R. Flaherty Sr. for more than 50 years of service to his community. My father thought all of you should do what you can to make your community stronger, and we saw that a little bit tonight. He thought you should assist your community in any way that you can. My father loved serving and volunteering his time, and this year's recipient truly also loves his community and volunteering his time. Although the Vic Flaherty Senior Civic Award Committee received this nomination in April of 2015, the committee, correctly or incorrectly, decided to wait until now after he left his position in town government. I believe what makes this year's recipient a little more special is that this was the first application received and submitted for consideration by one of Victor R. Flaherty Sr.'s children. My sister Sue submitted this application to the committee, and for a daughter who grew up watching her father's passion for this community to submit a nomination for anyone says volumes about this individual's community involvement and commitment. Tonight, I'm honored to recognize Jerry D. Lawrence as the 2019 recipient of the Victor R. Flaherty Senior Award. Where's Jerry? Just come up, Jerry. While Jerry comes up, when I called Jerry to inform him of the award, he got choked up, telling me what an honor it was to be recognized for the award in my father's name. Tonight is not his first award or recognition for Jerry's service to communities. Jerry has received the International President's Award for service with the Lions Club, serving now for 13 years and president for the past 7. Jerry was also honored at the Bridgewater Rotary Club as Citizen of the Year. I believe Jerry learned a valuable lesson on volunteering as a young boy. His grandfather, George Civic, who I knew well, often assisted my father with supplies, equipment for the newly built in 1990, YA snack bar. George spent many hours volunteering his time assisting my father with a snack bar, although he couldn't teach him how to cook a hot dog. Jerry wasn't far behind. He was always there. Jerry watched closely the passion and commitment both of these individuals had for our community, and I think he caught some of their passion. Later, when Jerry reached high school, he joined the Key Club. The Key Club is a high school club sponsored by the Kiwanis, which has student members performing acts of service to their community, such as cleaning up parks, collecting clothes, and organizing food drives. And what a surprise. Jerry's first project was cleaning up our town park. Jerry and other high school students felt that the town park was in poor condition and needed a good cleaning up and some TLC. Jerry at the time called our tree warden, Christina Telly. A plan was put in place. So in the spring of 1990, Jerry and the other Key Club members started cleaning up and revitalizing our town hall. For the next 2 years, these students continued cleaning the park and completing their vision. Jerry was so proud of the new look at the park, he wanted to show and celebrate their efforts. This beginning the now traditional Park Day. Now, more than 25 years later, a tradition here in West Bridgewater. Jerry also started REACH. REACH stands for Residents Emergency Assistance Care Helps, this being a collaboration of town departments, communities, groups, and churches. Jerry was instrumental in starting our small town museum in the rear of the town hall. He served on the Board of Health, the Board of Selectmen, School Committee, Building Needs, Friends of the Library, and now as a trustee with the library. There are so many other causes that Jerry spearheaded in his lifetime. Far too many to speak about tonight, especially Game 4 of the Stanley Cup. Bruins airing in a little while here. But I will end with my speech with a brief story of Jerry's latest efforts. Jerry recently received a call from his friend, Bill Cavadas. Bill, as we know, is a very patriotic individual, explained to Jerry, every library in the Commonwealth has a flagpole. Ours does not. What does Jerry do? He sets up a donation account, solicits support, and just like that, funding was completed and the flag was installed. That's an individual that loves his community. That's an individual committed to help and assist others. That's why that's what this award is all about. Individuals that just want to serve. Again, I'm honored and humbled to present the 2019 Victor R. Flaherty Senior Civic Award to Jerry D. Lawrence.
Thank you, everybody. And I see some great role models out there. Nancy Maloney, where are you, Nancy? And Linda Santry, two great role models early on in my service when I first got on the school board, and Chris Lanatelli, just some great leaders in this town that really love the town and put a lot into it. Growing up, I was always by my grandfather's side, and he was not too many steps behind Vic Flaherty Sr. And one thing I think the Flaherty family truly believes in, and my grandfather believed in, and I'm hoping I'm passing on to my two kids, that community service is a family affair. And if you remember YEA in the old days, the entire Flaherty family was there. And if you grew up with me, we were at every Rotary event and every event my grandfather was involved in. Two great men that truly believed in community service, and that, again, it was a family affair. Is your mom here today, Vic? Yes. Hey, Lois, can you come up? Mrs. Flaherty, this might sound odd coming from me, but behind every good man is a great woman. Ironic. And I just want to say, I think my kids feel the sacrifice in my community service every day, and we make it a community affair. But Vic's involvement and love and passion for the town and everything he did, you were there by his side also. And I know when I first became selectman, I spent many, many hours over the house getting some wonderful words of wisdom from Vic one-on-one, and you some little side notes from the kitchen. So I want to present you with some flowers and say thank you to you and your entire family for everything you've done and for the honor to receive this award in Vic's name. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order at, what time is it? 7:13, and would ask the town clerk to read the posting of the warrant.
To either of the constables of West Bridgewater and the County of Plymouth, greeting. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of West Bridgewater qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet at the West Bridgewater Middle Senior High School auditorium in said town on June 3rd, 2019 at 7 p.m. Then there to act on the following articles to wit. Pursuant to within the article, I have this day notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of West Bridgewater qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet at the time and place within mentioned by posting 15 attested copies within warrant at various locations through Precinct 1 and 2 7 days at least before the aforesaid annual town meeting. Patrick J. Galligan, Constable, Town of West Bridgewater.
Thank you. Articles 1 and 2 are consent articles. Selectwoman Reyes.
Move that the town consider and approve Articles 1 and 2 as printed on the warrant as a single consent article.
Is there a second?
Second.
Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended by unanimous by the Board of Selectmen.
Selectwoman Reyes, would you like to speak to the motion?
It's not too much to say. They're consent articles.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Right. Article 3. Let's see who that is. Selectman Morera.
Move that the town vote to determine the salaries of the following elected town officials for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019. Moderator, $338. Board of Selectmen, $10,375. Town Clerk, $71,644. Board of Health, $4,936. Board of Assessors, $10,539. Water Commissioners, $7,295.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Selectman Morera, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, it's just a typical article that we present every year before the town meeting, and it's pretty well self-explanatory.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Article 4. So this is your town budget. It's the Finance Committee book that everyone has. So what we'll do is I will read through the budget, each department or category, and the total. If you have any questions or comments you would like to make, just yell out "hold." And once we've gone through all of them, we'll go back and visit each hold. First, we'll have Meredith Anderson read the motion.
Move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $35,312,819 for the maintenance and support of the several departments for the town and other usual or necessary town charges, as herein specified and requested by the Finance Committee for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019, for the purposes herein described, and further, that the sum of $32,465,780 be raised and appropriated, and the sum of $2,847,039 be transferred as follows. From estimated water revenues to the Water Department, $2,097,039. From emergency medical services receipts for the Fire Department, $400,000. And from free cash to offset the debt exclusion borrowing costs for the middle senior high school, $350,000, for a total of $2,847,039.
Thank you. Is there a second? Awesome. Okay, so we're going to go down the list. Moderator 1140 for $588. Board of Selectmen 1220 at $342,210. Okay. FinCom 1310, that's for $3,100. FinCom Reserve 1320, $67,000. Accountant 1350 for $109,518. Assessors 1410, okay. That's 229539 for dollars. Treasurer Collector 1450, that's $311,093. Town Council 1510 for $87,000. Okay. Information Systems 1550 $89,741. Cable TV Committee 1560 for $1,100. Town Clerk 1610 for $133,034. Elections Registration 1630 $26,350. Okay. Conservation Commission 1710 for $105,409. Open Space Committee 1715 for $950. Agricultural Commission 1720 for $600. Planning Board 1750 for $25,007. Board of Appeals 1760 for $5,804. Rent Control Board 1850 for $4,320. ADA Commission 1920 for $500. Insurances 1930 for $262,977. Town Hall 1940 for $59,200. Municipal Building Needs Committee 1945 $1,486. Wastewater Treatment Facility 1950 for $11,500. Economic Development Commission $0. Police Department 2100 for $2,925,273. Okay. Fire Department 2200. It's $2,301,518. Building Inspector 2410 for $155,597. Gas and Plumbing Inspector, that's 2420 for $19,470. Okay, Sealer of Weights and Measures 2440, that's for $5,965. Inspector of Wires, that is 2450 for $19,670. Canine Control, that's 2920 for $8,250. Education, that's $3,000, and the total is $13,111,103. Southeastern Regional Votech 3200. That's at $598,925. Public Works 4215 for $1,148,010. Okay. PW Snow Removal, that's $91,300. PW Street Lighting, that is 4240 for $77,700. Waste Disposal 4330, that's for $300,994. Tree Warden 4940 for $400. Board of Health 5110 for $160,858. Women's Crisis Center, that's 5260 for $2,750. Brockton Area ARC, that's 5270 at $250. Old Colony Hospice, that's 5280 for $2,000. Council on Aging 5410 for $305,245. Veterans 5430, that's for $65,551. Library 6100 for $471,010. Plymouth County Extension Service, that's 6600 for $200. Historic Commission 6910, that's for $1,750. Vets Memorial Day, that's $2,700. Debt principal 7100 for $2,015,473. Debt interest 7510, that's for $1,176,761. Short-term debt, interest on short-term debt, that is 7520 for $50,000. Benefits 9100, that's for $6,319,030. Water department 40, that's a 4500 for $2,097,039. Okay. And the grand total of all that is $35,312,819. Oh, boy. Should be an auctioneer. All right. Board of Selectmen. Okay. Okay, so the first hold is on the Board of Selectmen. Would anyone like to speak to the motion?
Neil Conley, 376 Walnut Street. Dave, don't get upset about it. It's only taxpayers' money. I'm just looking at two of these. The appointed official 511. Is that Dave or is that his secretary? Which one is that? It says appointed official 1 and appointed official 2.
Yep. So 5110 is me.
No, you're not elected. You have 11. But the question is, it goes from 130 from 18 all the way up to 144. Appointed official, I assume that's a secretary. Am I correct by saying that?
Yep, so 5111 is me and 5112 are the ladies in the office.
And ladies, or how many ladies are secretaries?
There are 2 of them.
2 of them? And what's the breakdown of that? Do they get equal 50-50 or?
No, one is going to be 80,000, the other one will be about 53,000.
And all right, and why is it just a big difference in A and B?
One is the assistant town administrator / HR director, and the other one is the secretary.
And so she has more responsibility, or she just started? Is that the new lady that just started a couple months ago?
That is correct.
And just going back to you, Dave, I mean, everybody deserves a raise. $14,000. That's a nice raise. And that ain't counting your benefits. And I apologize for directing them towards you, but that's not counting your benefits, so there's benefits on top of that. And I don't know anybody that gets a $14,000 raise over a year or so. I know the rule of thumb they use, the surrounding towns and things like that, but we're not the surrounding towns, we're West Bridgewater. And I'd take the money, too, if it was given to me. I'd like to cut it down, but I know you do a lot. You're a good guy.
Thank you.
But these kind of raises, but will you negotiate for the other people in the town?
Neil,
That's,
I apologize.
no,
Can I interject?
no, I'm not done speaking. Mr. Moderator, when I'm done speaking, I'm not yielding the mic. But when you negotiate for other departments, you nickel and dime them, and you take a big raise. That's my point.
Mr. Moderator, yes. I'd like to say a few things about that. We seem to hire, when we hire at the very minimum we can get these people. And this transaction, I know it represents a lot of money. This man has proven himself so much in every way. And I feel he's worth every single cent. We compared it to other administrators and other communities, population and all. And he seems to be right there. I know it was a big increase for 1 year, and a lot of the people out there, they don't get them kind of increases. But due to the fact of the way we hire and everything else, but as far as what we pay this man, he's worth every single cent we pay him.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to correct one fact. That $14,000 is over 2 years. I just wanted to make that clear.
Through the chair one more time. I ain't going to beat a dead horse. Eldon, you're 100% right. Then start paying the other workers, the highway department, the water department, the same kind of money. They do an excellent job also.
Yeah, I'd like to answer it. I'm not, it's mine any other department or anything else, but I know I'm very, very close, and you're very, very right. You attend a lot of our meetings. You know exactly what's going on probably more than anybody there, and you ask a lot of questions, and we try to answer them as you. And I know what you're saying. A lot of the people that are supporting out here are not making that kind of money. But the only thing is, like I was saying, we compared this to other communities. We didn't just do this off the thing and reward them. And that's what I was saying before. This man does on a day-to-day basis, he does a real great job. And I know it was a big increase for a one-year thing. But the thing is, and it's going back to maybe we were back where when we hired these people, we hired them at the low rate. Maybe we should look a little bit more at that rate, because so it wouldn't show such an increase. And I know how you feel about it, and because I feel the same way. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Denise Harvey-Vinskus, 18 Cornerstone Lane. I'd like to speak to 5242, vehicle repairs, $2,000. Is it my assumption that these are repairs for the vehicle that was donated by the police department last year to the town?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question then. So if the vehicle repair costs are going to be estimated to be $2,000, it is a used car with an extreme amount of mileage on it, which we did vote to go to the town for driving for people, elected officials, etc. What is the value of that car, and is it really worth putting the $2,000 into? And is this something that we're going to see come up every single year, $2,000 that we're putting into a car to maintain it? That's not really going to, it's not necessary for the town pays to use. Everybody has a personal car that you've used in the past, and to me, you know, again, this was one of the points I argued last year, is that we're then going to have to insure the car, we're going to have to repair the car, and this being a new line item, I think that now has shown that we need to repair a car. And so, how would you speak to that?
Sure. So it's not just a vehicle repair line. It's also where gasoline and other items such as just an oil change is going to come out of as well. We don't have a gasoline line. So the first year that it came out from the police department, it had to be painted. We got quotes. It was like $4,000, $4,200. We brought it to Southeast Regional. Southeast Regional is only going to do it for less than $800. So the purpose of this car is that currently right now, and I receive complaints about this every single year, is that, for example, the Board of Assessors, the assessor goes out, he's in his private car, somebody shows up, and somebody says, who's this guy that wants to come into my house? There's really no identification, not just from him personally, but from a vehicle. Our conservation agent, our health agent, myself, anybody else in the town hall, when they show up at your doorstep, you should know that these people are legitimately from the town. So that was the spirit behind acquiring the car. The car didn't cost us any money. I don't anticipate we're going to spend $2,000 every single year. The first year, as you know, most police cars are black and white. To the chief's credit, going forward, all of the vehicles are going to stay monotone in color, so that way if we ever want to be able to take the car off in service in the future, we don't have to worry about painting it. It also is going to be worth more as a trade-in if we want to be able to trade it at a later date. Not every other department has done that. I think I give credit to the chief for making that change. For this year here, we incur this one-time expense of painting it. We're still going to have to put gas in it. Sooner or later, it's going to need tires. We don't know. Maybe one year we'll spend $600, maybe sometime $1,800. It's a 2011 Ford Cruiser, all-wheel drive. It's a nice car. It's certainly worth more than $2,000.
How many miles are on it?
So the actual odometer is around 100,000 miles. We replace the cars at that point because they idle and they sit, so they normally would have more miles on that in real time. But again, the car's not going to be sitting and idling anymore. It'll just be going from, say, the town hall to Matfield Street and then back. So that'll be, the car is more than adequate for that.
Okay, so then this covers the cost of fuel, insurance, and repairs?
Not insurance, all other expenses.
Okay, so what would the insurance be on that car?
The insurance is covered under a different line for insurances for the entire town. I think I broke it out where each vehicle costs us around $1,600 to insure per year.
Okay, so $3,600 a year to have this car, approximately.
It's one car, so it'd be $1,600.
Plus the $2,000.
Oh. Okay.
So, okay. I guess you've answered my question sufficiently. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other discussion on this? All right. Moving on to assessors.
Denise Harvey-Vinskus, 18 Cornerstone Lane. Sorry. Is that better? Sorry. Denise Harvey-Vinskus, 18 Cornerstone Lane. I would like to speak to the appointed position 5111, in that there is an increase of $15,000. That's quite an increase. And I know that he is under contract, and I know that this cannot be negotiated. However, I would like to also call your attention to 5309 Consultant Services. This, again, is something that I will bring up because last year I brought it up as well. This was a service that was supposed to decrease in nature due to the fact that the appointed official was made a full-time employee. Given that fact, the consultant services were supposed to decrease, probably not be eliminated because from what I understand, it is a state-required position. However, it went from, I think, about a $10,000 or $12,000 consultant position 4 years ago. Last year, I believe it was $20,000. They're asking now $28,000. And we are not seeing a decrease in this amount. We are seeing an increase in his pay and an increase in consultant fees. I don't understand this, and this is something that I would call to amend. From my understanding, the contract needs to be renewed yearly, and it is not my understanding why this was not before, if it has not been put before the people for a vote. Why?
I'm Steve McCarthy, Chairman of the Board of Assessors. I'll address the first issue on the pay increase for the appointed official. The budget reads approved FY19 of $70,000 and request for FY20 of $85,000. Well, what had happened, if you remember, through some discussions last year in the meeting, we had put in John's, it was the second year of a contract, and his salary went from 70 up to 82 or 82.5, I forget. That money was not, the increase was not approved by town meeting. However, we're allowed to, based on the board standing, being an autonomous board, we kept, John was on the contract for the 82 or 82.5, so we had to find that money in-house. And that was difficult to do, but we did it. So actually, on paper, it looks like that, but the actual increase from 19 to 20 is only $3,000 up, so it goes from 82 up to 85,000. It looks that 15,000 looks on paper because, like I said, it wasn't approved and we had to meet the contractual obligation. So we found the money. So it's actually for 20, it's only a $3,000 increase. On line 5309, the contractual services, there's a lot to be said about that. A couple things. Of the 28,000, 20,000 is actually for the town's vendor, Patriot Properties, who does our revaluation. The 20,000 represents a 3-year contract of $60,000 that I believe, I'll have to check, is up this year. So the 28,000, 20,000 per year is for Patriot contract to do our revaluation. They have the Department of Revenue come in and certify our values. $8,000 of that is broken down, the remaining of the 28,000. $8,000 is broken down into ATB court cases, which we haven't done that much of, but we have some preparation work in web hosting for hopefully online maps, which will be coming up. We put money in there to, we're expecting to come online for FY20 for our mapping. I will say the following. When we talked and we brought John in full-time, agreed that, we'd see some savings, hopefully, and we have. I'm expecting on the next go-around for the Patriot contract not to see much of an increase or an increase at all, because we have brought some of their work in-house. And as anybody knows, with anything they do, if they hire somebody, it's a lot more expensive now than it was 4 years ago. So that's part of our negotiations. And something else that I can't stress enough of is that by John being certified commercial appraiser and such, we're working on a couple of properties which I've talked about over and over. The fact that you don't see that savings, but because we don't write a check to the town or John, but we have saved substantial money on some of those larger commercial, well, mostly commercial appellate tax board cases where John and I have handled in-house. John's done some stuff, a lot of reading, a lot of appellate tax board background work to save the town considerable money in outside expert appraising fees and such. We recently had a price on a property that might be going forward. The appraisal fee, I believe, was $9,000, something that we've done in-house in the past. So as far as contractual services, we have Patriot property, and that stuff's got to go, go forward. On things I just mentioned, we try to bring more of that in-house, and hopefully some of Patriot's work, spreadsheet and income and expense, sales verification, we can do that. Most communities do their permits through their vendor. We do the permits in-house here. So, all in all, there's definitely a savings. I just can't put a stack of saved bills on the stage here.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
Yeah, Steve, I'd like to elaborate a little bit now. He just don't sit there, and I realize because I go in there a lot to see what's going on because I have concerns with that office too. But you guys go a lot to the appellate board in Boston on some of the big accounts.
Right.
And you serve a lot of your time in your personal time, and a lot of money is saved there. And this is where he is utilized because he has to research all the facts there, so you have to go in, and a lot of times you don't even bring the attorney in.
Right.
You go in yourself.
Would
you please tell the people out there what's really going on here?
Yeah, and that's correct, Eldon. We do, I've been in myself 3 times with town council and without, and we've prevailed. John just went in recently on something, and we prevailed on smaller cases, residential. And that's good, but also something else, too, that, it's not really known, because it's just not, is that we're coming forward on a large commercial property, and with assessment close to $20 million. And John came over to my house recently. He got some case law from the appellate tax board on recent summary of facts of similar cases, and we took that upon ourselves to sit there and go through and marry those things to learn everything we can about that to try to help the community come out on a favorable position. So in other words, we had some case law, some summary of facts. We went through and said, hey, this might work. This guy's expert is not that good. So we've actually spent considerable hours just trying to do the best job we can. And like I said, John has gone in. I've gone in myself, with or without counsel. With counsel, it costs the town some money. But in the appraisal end, which I do for my own business, we save considerable money.
So forgive me for this statement, but I'm going to say it. I'm a registered nurse, and I work in orthopedics. I do lots of research about orthopedic procedures, medications that we use. I do that on my own time, and I don't expect any more payment, nor do I get it. So when someone comes up here and tells me what their job description is to explain why they have a consultant for $28,000 a year, it doesn't cut it. So forgive me. If you need a lawyer, you get a lawyer. If you don't, you don't. I'm a nurse. If I need the doctor, I get the nurse. If I don't, I don't. That's the way the job title is. The concern, again, is the consultant fees going up. They never went down, not once. It was told to the people of this city that the cost would go down. Again, I don't expect it to go away. I also know that if you incur more costs at the end of the year, you can request those funds. I don't think that we should be contracting with somebody for an excessive amount should we not use them to the fullest. They're getting that money. Also, I would like to inquire as to where the cuts were made to make up the salary difference last year, because we cannot see that here.
All right. What? Is anyone going to answer that? Or no? Okay. Is there any more discussion on the topic?
With no discussion on the topic, I would like to file an amendment to the total of the assessors 1410 of $20,000 less to be $209,539. And I would like to amend the total town budget.
Yeah.
You don't have?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I will put it in writing. Thank you.
So you're going to table this? So you're done?
So now, we need a motion. Somebody has to second it, and then we have to discuss that motion.
Okay. So does anyone second the amendment? Okay.
She hasn't written it up yet.
She has to write it up.
I have to write it up. So I'm going to ask, can we table this until I write this and we can move on? Or do you want me to write it very quickly?
Go ahead, just take a minute to write it down. I'll just take a minute to write it down.
Yeah. Oh. It's a Red Bull. Gonna need it. Yeah. Okay. Uh-oh. We're starting? So I can read that?
I know she's already read it and it's been seconded, so you just have to ask if there's any.
Okay. Does that look good? Okay. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Can you read it, please?
Yes. Oh, boy. Amendment. I move to amend the motion as follows. The budget for the assessors be amended to $209,539 for the fiscal year of 2020. Amend the town budget $39,345,830. Yeah, we're not going to do the last part. That's going to be.
No, that's separate.
Yeah, that's separate.
So we'll cross that off. So it has been moved and seconded.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, Jack Hughes, 640 North Elm Street. Although I like town meeting and I like the fact that we come to the microphone, but this seems to be a historical issue with this one budget line item. And going forward, I would recommend that Denise go on the Finance Committee and do this with them every year instead of doing it at the microphone in the middle of town meeting.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
can I jump in?
I'm sorry, can I just reply to that for one brief moment? So I am a member of the town, and I do try to stay as informed as possible.
Yeah.
However, it's not my job, per se, to make them accountable. They need to be accountable for themselves. And in that point, that's what I'm asking them to do, is to be accountable, to be honest, and to do what is right by the people of West Bridgewater, not trying to just slide things in. That's all I'm saying. And please, in the future, refrain from addressing me personally, but I am a voter and I do have a right to my voice. Thank you.
Selectman Kinahan? Okay.
Mr. Moderator, so I understand why this is being done, but I don't believe it to be in the best interest of the town to reduce this budget by $20,000. It could put us in a position that could end up costing us more money. not having that $20,000 could mean that we could be in breach of at least 2 contracts, which in the end could cost us substantially more money.
You got it. Spend it.
Yes.
This is on. Jerry Screnchy, Captain Carlson Way. When we all work, well, most of us work, and we attend these meetings at night, and I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to work the next day. And we give our time because we want to. And when the Board of Assessors comes in, we know it's going to be a long night because we have to go through it very carefully. And we came away this year, as we have done in previous years, convinced, though Steve doesn't, he doesn't want to give away details of commercial properties, that the money that West Bridgewater has saved in, or
And that tax rebates.
tax in abatements is well worth the salary that they have spent. And that's why we voted for a full-time assessor in the first place, because it seemed to be in the best interest of the taxpayers in terms of the money that would come into the town. And we've spent a lot of time on this issue, and we all just talked that said somebody needs to say something. So that's what I'm saying. Agree?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes.
The question is not about its point of order. The question is not about the assessor's salary at this point. The question is about the amount of the consultant fees. I am not questioning that we need a full-time assessor. I am not questioning that he saves us money. I am questioning the need for a consultant at $28,000 a year. I move for a vote.
So second? Yeah. So we're going to go to a vote after Steve speaks.
Yeah, thank you. Steve McCarthy, Chairman of the Assessors. Just a couple of points to it. The young lady said about the consultant fees for $28,000. Well, 20 of that, like I mentioned earlier, is for our revaluation effort, Patriot property. That's something that's needed in our community in order to satisfy the Department of Revenue needs and get a timeline of the work dates on that effort. As far as one thing I do take exception to is the accountability. There's not much we can show for that except for the Department of Revenue certifies our values every year. We come to a classification hearing, we set a timely rate and send out timely bills. We don't run an overlay deficit. We have a low number of abatements. And all in all, as far as those numbers, the accountability is certainly there. Again, I mentioned about stuff we do behind the scenes, but any community has consulting services, no matter, if they have 3 John Donahues or Steve McCarthy sitting there, they're going to have some of that consulting services for really that much needed mass appraisal work. We do a lot of that stuff in-house. The other communities might not. It's hard to put a number on that. But certainly, if this $20,000 cut goes through, it's going to affect, like Selectman Marrera, one large contract with the vendor and others. I know it's just a money line drop, but that's where it's going to come from. And I can see, unfortunately, if that happens, I'm not sure what the results are going to be. We'll continue on, but it's not going to be good.
Okay. We're going to move for a vote. So we're voting on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? Those opposed? No. The noes have it. Amendment rejected. Any more discussion on the assessors?
You want more?
Hearing none, we're going to go to town council.
Real quick, your budget went up a couple $1,000. Is that just a fee that you went up on, or you did a case and it cost more? Am I reading that right?
It was $87,000 last year. We're budgeting $87,000 this year.
It says 85. Maybe my glasses aren't working. Another thing, are you, if I'm in order, Mr. Chairman, how many lawsuits are you representing us in tonight? And I'm serious. I take it serious.
3.
Because we pay all the fines and all, whatever.
So according to the annual audit report that our office prepares every year.
Speaking to the microphone.
He's a lawyer, he knows.
Okay. So as of May 13th, we prepared our annual audit report for the town's auditors. It describes all of the litigation that involves claims of financial claims against the town. We had listed 3 lawsuits, and that doesn't necessarily include other administrative matters that don't involve a financial liability to the town, such as a zoning appeal or that type of thing.
Can you just tell us what they are, the lawsuits? I don't have that paper. I think the people should know anyways. At least I want to know.
Right. So, and they're each matters of public record if one was to search the case dockets. So one is called Robert Smith versus the town of West Bridgewater. It's a Superior Court case.
What's that for?
I'm not prepared to provide a full summary of litigation. I'll describe litigation.
Listen, this ain't litigation. All they say he's suing the town for sexual harassment. You go down to the next one, he's suing the town, he tripped and fell down the stairs. He's looking for his comp. I think that's all you have to say. We're not telling you to open up the case. We just want to know. At least I want to know. I mean, we're paying you to represent the town, not just these cases.
So,
am I right by saying that?
So if I may, because in fairness to Matt, Matt is an associate in the firm, and so we use multiple attorneys. So Matt cannot necessarily be in every single case. So to answer your question, Robert Smith is a former police officer. He is suing the town because he was a special police officer, and at a certain time, the police chief made a decision that he no longer wanted him to be a special police officer. As a result, he's suing the town because he wanted to retain that status. The other 2 lawsuits are both in reference to, on the assessing side, is that they have come to a terms on evaluation. They are not happy with the valuation, and as they have the ability to do so, is that they have decided to file in land court 2 abatements that we are currently fighting. Those are the 3 active lawsuits against the town.
And that's it?
That's it.
Why don't you become the lawyer? You did pretty good.
Any other discussion on town council? All right, moving on. Now we are on to the police department.
Denise Finskus, 18 Cornerstone Lane. I'm just curious as to Article 5115, permanent salaries. I noticed that there's an excess of a $200,000 increase. Did we hire new police officers? Can you explain that increase to me?
Do you want me to do a big?
Fine.
To explain the increase, first of all, last year we did a warrant article for the school resource officer. This year we're not doing a warrant article. That money has been placed into the budget because it'd be tough every year to come in front of town meeting with an individual's livelihood runs on a vote. So that was moved into the overall budget. So it's not a warrant article this year. The other increases are contractual, and the third one is I'm looking to up the staff 1 member. We are still below 1997 numbers, so this will be the first increase in the numbers since 1997.
Okay, so that makes sense because we're paying for the SRO and then we're hiring another to replace him.
And contractual change.
And Thank you very much.
John Dupuy, 3 Catano Circle. Following up on that, I just seek clarification on line item 5119, listed as other salaries, $100,000. I'd like a further description on that. Thank you, Chief.
The other salaries are matron duties, crossing guards, and the dispatcher program we started about 3 years ago. We have now about 6 part-time dispatchers that are paid through this line. And this year we didn't increase this line. We kept it at the $100,000. Like I said, it takes care of all the matrons, all the school crossing guards, and like I said, the dispatch program for those 6 part-time individuals that do our dispatching now.
One further question having to do with, I've noticed a lot of cameras going up around town. Just curious, in this budget, where line items are for service, maintenance, the computers, the electricity for them, whatever it takes to maintain and keep those systems and services running.
Well, like with every, some of these cameras that I've purchased through grants, we just purchased the last ones through grants, technology grants. Obviously, the server is plugged into the station. It's our own server. It's not on the cloud. It's not anywhere else. We keep it in-house. No one has any access to it but us. So the upkeep on these things will come from within the budget. But as of now, we haven't had any increase or, maintenance to these cameras now. And the only thing I can tell you is that they've been very beneficial to many people in this room, probably. We've solved a lot of issues on robberies, breaks, hit and runs. It's not a nothing's free, but it seems like the benefit is worth the small amount of money we pay for it.
And one further point of clarification on the surveillance systems. Is any of that information shared with any other agencies, either federal or state?
Outside the scope. It's not a budgetary question.
That's out of scope.
Very good.
Any other discussion on police? All right, moving on to Southeastern Regional Voc Tech School.
Real quick, Mr. Chairman. First of all, our school committee woman over there does a great job, but a lot of people don't realize this battle we used to have in the past over this budget. And the superintendent of the schools from Southeastern used to come here. Is he here tonight to explain his budget? So this is what we do. We just write it off, accept it is. But I don't know how many students are there, but if you go down the list, what's this, 6 or 7 towns involved, cities, we pay a high percentage for the small amount of kids that go there. I'm not against that education at all because I work with my hands every day, and it's a great school, but this fee is going to keep going up and up and up, and you're going to be stuck with it. And some towns, when you hear what they pay for per student, it don't come close to what we have. It's a state issue, and I don't know, maybe a state rep or state senator can make the playing ground fair. I don't know if I'm right by saying that. I know the Finance Committee has the records in front of you. But how much does Brockton pay? How do they sneak in? All right, I'll let it go. It's not going to change anything. No. Because you're not going to change anything. It has to be done at the state level, and that was it. When Ricky Freitas was here, he tabled that budget, and then we had to have a special meeting to have them come and get it. Eldon, and things like that. But I'm not saying we're looking for anything for free. We just got to keep control of it to make sure we're not going to say, here's the money, here's what we want, but you're going to get it. You're going to come and ask for it, and you're going to explain why you need it.
So, Janice Fox from 311 East Street. Just so you know, if the students apply, it's a blind acceptance, and if they apply and they get accepted, we have to send them. We have to allow them to go. So that's not really something that we have a whole lot of control over from that perspective. But I think Jerry has the numbers. Do you have how many kids we're sending? This is another long presentation that we have to listen to when they come in. Right. There are 50 students from West Bridgewater in Southeast Regional. That makes up 3.3% of their total enrollment. The aid from the state is somewhat disproportionate. And as you can imagine, someplace like Brockton gets way more aid than a place like West Bridgewater. Just keep in mind the pressure on the state. Yes, should we call our state representatives and the governor? Absolutely. But look at our budgets. Look at, 20 years ago there were parks and counselors. Now there aren't. Now there's a lot more other pressures on budgets. There's drug abuse, there's Narcan, there's robberies, and the state, and there's Medicaid is 50% of the state budget. It's extremely difficult to divide up all that money, and the towns are getting less and less, and the taxpayers are paying more and more. Funding a town budget off of taxpayer revenue is going to become extremely more difficult as the years go by. So keep that in mind. This is just another example. We're not overpaying for Southeast Regional. We grill that guy every time he comes in, and there really is no way to fight it. No, I know that. We can't, I'm just saying. We don't, you know, there's not much. We don't have any. We can't say no.
Any other discussion on Southeastern Regional? Hearing none, we're going to move over to Public Works. Anyone want to speak about that?
Hi, sorry, not sorry. I just had a question. On permanent salaries, I'm just curious, there's a $65,000 increase in salaries. Could you just explain that significant increase to me?
That would be the staff of the highway forestry, which was combined into DPW, and the fleet mechanic, and those are contractual increases for men. Yes, multiple men. Okay? Yep.
Right. Any more discussion on Public Works? Hearing none, we're going to move on to Water Department.
Denise Harvey, Vince, 18 Cornerstone Lane. So I just had a question on 5113 labor. There's a $54,000 increase on that line item, and I would like just a little more explanation on that.
Wayne Parks, 405 Spring Street. There's 4 water department employees and me. So we make our own revenue, we do everything. We're a little town hall unto ourselves. We answer to all of you. Today we touched every one of you with our water. So, okay. I am trying to hire a part-time person, and if it works so that I can split my crews into 2. So I'll have 2 crews that can go out and do all of the maintenance that we have to do. We do everything. We do snow plowing, blacktopping, landscaping, everything that the town does, we do also. Yes, I'm looking to hire somebody.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Any more discussion on Water Department? Hearing none, we move on to
Just move on to the main motion, which was Article 4, the motion that Mary read.
Okay, hearing no more discussion, we're going to move on to the main article of Article 4 and vote on just the whole budget. Right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. All right. All right. Article 5, Mr. McCarthy.
Steve McCarthy, Chairman, Board of Assessors. Article 5, move that the town accept the provisions of Section 4 of Chapter 73 of the Acts of 1986 and to further accept the provisions of Chapter 126 of the Acts of 1988, which will grant a percentage increase to real estate tax exemptions to persons who are otherwise qualified for such exemptions, and further to increase the real estate tax exemption to persons so qualified by 25% for FY20.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended by the Board of Selectmen unanimously.
Mr. McCarthy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. This provision allows the local community to adopt a 25% increase over the certain exemption amounts that are under this state statute. So this being passed, for the exemption of the elderly, the FY19 amount was $500, with a 25% increase for FY20 to $625. For the widows of those over 70 would be $175 to the increase of $218.75. For the veterans, the 19 amount was $400, it would increase to $500. And for the blind, the FY19 amount was $500, and the increase would go to $625. So to locally adopt this, we'd raise those increases over the state statute.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, Article 6. Mr. Iannatelli?
Move that the town borrow $322,502 to be repaid in not more than 1 year in anticipation of the reimbursement to meet the town's share of the cost of work for state aid construction and maintenance as authorized as the town's portion of Chapter 90 local transportation aid funding for fiscal year 2020 in accordance with the figures released by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation in accordance with Chapter 86 of the Acts of 2008.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously to the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Iannatelli, would you like to speak to the motion?
This is our annual Chapter 90 money that we receive every year from the state, and we'll be using it for road construction throughout the summer.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, but is that the roads you do over, Rick? The roads we do over, like you did on Walnut Street, things like that? And what are your projects coming up? I mean, you've done a great job on it, and I know we get it every year. And just for a little input, when you're doing road work like that, maybe a sign goes up. Now we got the town dump sign, let people know where that money's being spent, and it's well spent money.
Right.
This year we're going to be paving United Drive, and we'll see how far that money goes, and then we'll be doing some other work from that point on. There was some reconstruction of a couple other roads, as well as some milling and repaving of some bad spots on other roads that we're going to be doing.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 7. Mr. Cruz?
Good evening, everyone. This is a long-winded to move the money. John Cruz, 123 North Elm. Article 7, that the monies previously repaid through the loan program by the property owners be transferred and appropriated for the purpose of financing additional water pollution abatement facility projects. Concerning the repair replacement, it's kind of long. I'll define it, I'll summarize it when I'm done. Pursuant to agreement for the Board of Health and residential property owners, including without limitation, all costs thereof is defined in Section 1, Chapter 29C of the General Laws, that to meet the appropriation of Treasurer and the approval of the Board of Selectmen is authorized to reissue those funds for additional water pollution abatement facility projects that are in excess of amounts due to be repaid by the Massachusetts Water Pollution Abatement Trust. That project and financing costs shall be repaid by the property owners in accordance with the agreements authorized under those statutes, of which the proceeds from interest as well as any amounts received from the homeowner for the repayment of such loans shall be credited to the Reserve for Appropriation WPAT loan repayment account, and shall, with approval of town meeting, be used to fund the repayment of any loans granted by the Water Pollution Abatement Trust under this authorization.
Good job. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended by unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Cruz, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, so what this is, on the Board of Health, if you have a failed or septic system that needs repair, assistance, we borrow money from the state and we offer low interest loans. And that's pretty much what it is. So the people that borrow the money, they repay it. I think they repay it with a piece of their property taxes. And then this just revolves the money so we can loan it again out next fiscal year. That's all it is. So anybody out there that has issues with the septic system, give the Board of Health office a call and we can assist. I think it's 300,000. Is it, Scott?
What's the question?
How much did we borrow? Was it 300,000? I think that we continue to.
There's a few loans out there. We kind of borrow the money every year.
Yeah. Can't, but it protects the environment. That's what we're all here for. Groundwater issues. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. All right. Article 8. Ms. Cambria?
Cheryl Cambria, 1 Wallace Way, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. Move that the town vote to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund estimated revenues the following amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for community administrative expenses, open space, historic resources, and community housing reserves, and other expenses in fiscal year 2020, with each item to be a separate appropriation or reserve. Appropriations are as follows. From FY 2020, estimated revenues for committee administrative expenses, $9,200. From FY 2020, estimated revenues for open space and reserve, $8,400. From FY 2020, estimated revenues for historic resources reserve is $0. From FY 2020, estimated revenues for community housing reserves, $18,400. And from FY 2020, estimated revenues for undesignated funds, which is the remainder of the income, $0.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
All right. Ms. Cambria, would you like to speak to the motion?
This is all done in accordance with the Community Preservation Committee, the Community Preservation Coalition, every year, the money that we get from the CPA tax and from the state, a certain amount of it, 10%, has to go into certain, sometimes we call them buckets, and of course some administrative funds, and this is basically what that is. Setting up the designations.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. Article 9. Ms. Cambria?
Move that the town vote to appropriate from the FY 2020 Community Preservation Fund estimated revenues, a sum not to exceed $15,000 under the category of historic preservation to be expended by the town clerk for the continued preservation and digitization of historic vital records.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Ms. Cambria, would you like to speak to the motion?
This is a continuation. This has been going on for about 10 years, I believe. And it's all the vital records in the town clerk's office, all the historical records.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 10, Ms. Cambria.
Move that the town vote to appropriate from the FY 2020 Community Preservation Fund estimated revenues a sum not to exceed $10,000 under the category of historic preservation to be expended by the Board of Assessors for the continued preservation of historic vital records.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Ms. Cambria, would you like to speak to the motion?
Again, this is a preservation of historical documents within the Assessor's office. They've been doing it for a couple of years now, and it's a continuation of that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. Article 11, Ms. Cambria.
Move that the town vote to appropriate from the FY 2020 Community Preservation Fund estimated revenues, a sum of which up to $36,605 under the category of historic preservation to be expended by the West Bridgewater Historical Commission for the preservation and rehabilitation of the old fire barn Town Museum at 65 North Main Street at the rear of Town Hall.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Ms. Cambria, would you like to speak to the motion?
A couple of years ago, the Historical Commission did a preservation assessment of the building. So they did a few projects a couple of years ago. I don't know if many of you know, but the museum is up and running, and they have hours that they're open. So this is kind of to move on and to continue with some of the projects that were identified to keep the building secure.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I move for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 12, Ms. Cambria.
Move that the town vote to appropriate from the FY 2020 Community Preservation Fund estimated revenues, a sum of which up to $10,000 under the category of open space to be expended by the Department of Public Works for the War Memorial Park Fish Passage Improvement Study for wildlife habitat preservation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Ms. Cambria, would you like to speak to the motion?
This is extra money that to continue with the fish passage improvement study that's being conducted at War Memorial Park to make improvements.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we're going to move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Right. So we are on 13. All right. Article 13, Ms. Cambria.
Move that the town vote to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund a sum of $110,000, of which up to $76,395 shall be appropriated from the FY 2020 Community Preservation Fund estimated revenues, and up to $33,605 shall be appropriated from the Community Preservation Undesignated Fund Balance under the category of Historic Preservation to be expended by the Department of Public Works for the repairs to the town-owned cemeteries.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
This is phase 2 of the preservation work of the town-owned cemeteries. I don't know if everybody last year went down South Street, but they did quite a bit of work, and they did a beautiful job working on the gravestones and crypts down there. So this is phase 2 of that work. It's just a continuation.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Morris McCarthy, 23 Captain Carlson Way. Just as a little interruption, I think many residents may not be clear on where these funds come from, and maybe you could quickly explain to them where the money comes from.
The Community Preservation So the town back in 2008 voted to place a 1% tax on residents of the town of West Bridgewater. So every year you pay, I think it's like averages around $27 maybe for residents. And then the rest of the balance that is from the state of Massachusetts, and right now they collect the money from fees that are paid at the Registry of Deeds. And I believe this past year we brought in around $186,000. Hopefully there's been some changes in with the coalition, and they're trying to increase the fees or increase the money that gets paid out, because so many towns have now joined in to this that way back when it used to be 100% match. So it's definitely decreased, but they're doing all they can to try to bring it up. So.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Right. Article 14 requires a 2/3 vote. Because it's a borrowing item. Ms. Cambria, and I understand there's a presentation. Okay.
All right. Move that the town vote to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund a sum of money not to exceed $320,000 to be expended by the Department of Public Works for the Friendship Park Playground Replacement Project, and to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, be authorized to borrow the sum of money as authorized under the Community Preservation Program pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 11.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay. You guys going to present now?
Hi, we are 4 parents that came together to try to get the playground replaced. My name's Meredith Anderson. I live at 118 South Elm Street.
Hi, my name's Melissa Burns. I live at 291 South Street. Lauren Ferroli, 24 Bryant Street.
And Christine Myers-Koski of 188 North Elm Street.
We all got together because we found different concerns with the playground. We found that some of the equipment was worn out and pretty outdated. The playground was built back in 1994. My mom was actually part of that, along with Chris Inatelli and a lot of the other, some other people here in town. They got together and they built that playground. But now that it's been almost 25 years later, there's been some accessibility issues with the mulch. There's issues about the gate not closing. That's my personal favorite. I have twins, so you have to decide which one you want to save when they both run to the exit. So that was my motivation to get involved in this. Yeah.
So I have 2 children. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old son, and so I brought them when they were little, and they still continue to play there. And as Mary said, it was built back in 1994, and so the playground's been around for quite a while. The average lifespan of a playground might be between 15 and 20 years. So we're beyond that now, and we're really getting to the end of the life cycle on that. A little bit more than that, but still. So as Mary said, it's currently not accessible to wheelchairs. Also, if you have a stroller, you can't really push it around through there. So actually, we had a certified inspector come, and she observed the playground for an entire day. And so in her professional opinion, the playground has run its course, and it is our recommendation that it be removed. And she noticed that there was some rot, especially below grade. So that means that, at some point it may give, and it could be when somebody's on the playground equipment. She noticed that there weren't really good separated areas for like the toddlers and the younger kids and the older kids. And for safety reasons, it's important to keep those areas separate. I don't know if anybody's been to the Marathon Park. There's a nice little area for the toddlers and a little bit older kids and then a little bit older kids. So that's something else that we would like to do to make it that way. So actually, I think that there's a sign there that says it's actually for 5 to 12 years. 5 to, I'm sorry? Yeah, 5 to 12-year-olds. So we want to make sure, and the lady had observed that 40% of the kids were below 5, and some of the kids were getting stuck, and probably on that structure with the really tall slide, so they had to be rescued. Yeah.
The fireman's pole.
Oh, and the fireman's pole also. Yeah, it's too far out to reach. So, no. So these are all things that we would like to correct. And today there were a lot more up-to-date safety measures. A lot of these safety measures and regulations have come up, unfortunately, because over the years children have gotten hurt. So they've been updating the playground equipment requirements and what's required for playgrounds. Some of the things we'd like to do is replace the mulch with rubber, replace the fencing so kids can't climb in it, close off the gated area, as Mary mentioned, so like to have a safety gate, and add inclusive equipment. So for handicapped children also, they'll be able to push a wheelchair through there and get on some of the equipment as well. We'd like to keep the tree in the shade, which everybody loves. And we'd also like to add a walking loop so parents can kind of go around and still keep an eye on their children, get a little exercise. And now Lauren's going to speak.
So in order to get the budget, we did go to 3 different experienced playground designers. So these are just some examples we got to get the budget with the footprint we have and for the age ranges. So this is our first, and then I think we have one more, and we do have a table with the numbers, which is probably what everybody's interested in. So we did base the proposal on the lowest of the 3 estimates. And the rubber surfacing does take a big component of this. So this actually costs more than the equipment. But this is to make it up to code and to make it fully accessible. And this is, related to, it's neighboring a school. So we definitely want that in our town. And so this also, what? Yeah, and one other thing we did to decrease the cost is a community build, which costs about, takes about $35,000 off the private install. Keep going. Do we have the next one? Is that it? No? Do we have the next slide? Is that it? Okay. And just for comparison, Halifax did just rebuild their playground, and it was about the same price, about $300,000. We have fundraised for 2 years. This is a small town. This has been very challenging with a lot of competing interests. We have PTO, we have the WYAA. We did some park day events. We did Riverwalk. We did some community concert fundraising. And we do have $2,000. So that would be about 160 more years. We do have future ideas to help amplify the budget for the playground, and once we know this is a go, I think we could move forward. It would be a little disingenuous to start that this early in the project.
Oh, okay. So this is, we're looking for $320,000. And this is a borrowing article, so the money would be coming through the CPA funds. So these are the funds that Cheryl just told us about that are already put aside for some of these different projects. And this project would fall into one of those buckets. I believe it's the open space one. So it would be a borrowing article. They would borrow the money for 5 years, and the kids would have a new playground. If this gets approved, we're going to need a lot of help. So I'm hoping there's a lot of other parents and residents who'd be willing to help us, because it's been a lot just to get here for 2 years. So thank you.
Finance Committee?
Do I say? We voted unanimously 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously of the Board of Selectmen.
Any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, through you, I have a question. It's my understanding that the fence isn't included in this quote. Is that correct?
Yes, we took an estimate. The lowest budget the lowest proposal we got was $320,000, and we figure between that and raising some funds on the side, we're thinking of doing something similar with the bricks, like we're done in 1994, to raise the additional funds.
I think it's awesome that they're doing it and they contributed, but I honestly believe maybe next year or whenever I just hope we didn't skimp it because it went to past 320,000. Say if you went up to say 400,000, you get a much better thing. And we, well, and I honestly believe that we need cameras down there, so it can go to the police department. Maybe not this year, whatever it takes. Because in today's world, you don't know who's running around down there, and the police can just flick on to see what's going on down at the park with certain cameras. That's something to think about maybe next year.
Thank you.
I would also just like to add that as a proud mom of a Boy Scout, that it's an excellent organization for you to go to because there are several boys that need Eagle Scout projects. And when you're putting equipment together or you're raising money for a certain piece of equipment, that's something that they're looking to do. I know that Jefferson Roberts did an Eagle Scout project and he put in a big Maramba, it's called, at the Spring Street School, which is accessible to all children. And so it's definitely something that you should tap into as a resource.
I know the gazebo that's there was built by
was an Eagle Scout project as well. So tap into your local resources. I have a question.
I'm in favor. Not on. I'm in favor of this project. I just have a question. The rubber surface, will that outlive the life of the equipment? Is that something you can put in and it will last 40 years versus 20?
No, we did talk to them about that. The equipment is not typically built like it was years ago, so they're not saying it's going to get the same 15 to 25-year life. So for the rubber, we had a lot of concerns. Is it going to harm the trees? Is it, how's the maintenance going to be? What if somebody comes along and rips a hole in it? And it seemed very easy to patch and easy to care for. There would be next to no maintenance required on it. So its lifespan is expected to meet or exceed the equipment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Karen McGowan, Ryan 7, Copper Beach Circle. I just have a few questions, only because the install, and I realize the rubber is a lot of money, but the install at the Spring Street School was done entirely on community funds, not just communities, but we reached out to foundations and got grants and things like that. So $320,000, I have 3 kids that grew up in this town. $320,000 is a lot of money. And I was just wondering, are there any alternatives to that rubber?
With the way it was explained to us is that there are going to be some laws changing about the accessibility of playgrounds, and we were told this rubber is going to be required within a year or so.
Do you have any idea if they're going to be, do you have any idea if they're going to be, several years ago the ADA made swimming pools have to put in elevators for people that were needing them. Do you know if they're going to retroactively apply the ADA qualifications? Okay. That is what they say. Yeah. So someone made the claim, but there's no alternative surface. We can't hear you.
Yeah, let's please speak into the microphone.
I'm making things worse here. There's no alternative surface.
No alternatives proposed. Okay. Well, there was talk of keeping the mulch, but they were talking about how that's not meeting what our goals are, which is to make it more accessible.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. I don't know what I just said. What did I say? Oh, the mulch that's there. There was a possibility of keeping that in, but then you have to continue with the repairs and maintenance. It's unclear on what's going to be required with the rubber. We met with 3 different consultants, and all 3 highly recommended and only pointed out other playgrounds that had that same rubber or were installing that same rubber.
I know the fence is not included, but did anyone give you quotes on a fence?
I got 3 quotes from a local fence person, and I think it ranged from a couple $1,000 to $14,000, depending on how much we want to replace it. I think the couple $1,000 was just to close up the open area with like a double opening, and we want a safety lock so that kids can't just push out of it. So on the lower end was just those 2, and then the larger quote I think was, I can't remember the top number, but I want to say 14 was at least little. Yeah, it's not outlandish, but it would be to replace a couple. We can either replace a couple of the broken spots, or we can just replace the whole thing. Yeah.
And then one last thing, on the environmental impact, you had said that you had spoken to them about the rubber and that there wasn't going to be a problem with like trees and things like that. So if you can just speak to that, and then I'm done.
I'm not sure which of us asked, but I know that we did speak of it with all three of the proposals. We talked about what was the rubber impact on the tree, would it be okay? And they pointed out several other playgrounds that have it, showed us the trees that were flourishing. So there weren't any concerns when we spoke to three separate companies about the effect on the trees or the environment.
Mr. Moderator, John McQueen, 3 Katana. Just a point of inquiry. Was this presentation submitted under the deadline of Section 15 of the General Bylaws?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I move for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Yeah, what? I did in the beginning. No, sorry, what do I say? I declare a 2/3 vote.
Yeah.
All right, next. Article 15, Mr. Golder.
Move that the town raise and appropriate a sum of $100,000 to fund other post-employment benefits, OPEB, liability trust fund, established in accordance with Chapter 32B, Section 20 of the Massachusetts General Laws.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee, 6-0.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Mr. Golder, would you like to speak to the motion?
OPEB is basically retiree benefits that the town pays for. We set up this fund in fiscal 15. There's about $500,000 in it right now, and the ratings agencies look very highly on funding it every year. And in the future, we'll look to pay off all the OPEB costs out of the interest that the fund generates.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, I'm going to move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 16, Chief Flaherty.
Move that the town raise and appropriate a sum of $10,000 as the town's match for the Web Task Force in fiscal year 2020.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Chief Flaherty, would you like to speak to the motion?
I think everybody's well aware of the task force we've been involved in since approximately 1996. It was still going strong. We share resources with all the other communities. I think it's been very beneficial to the town.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 17, Mr. Cabral.
Arthur Cabral, 77 Walnut Street, Chairman of the Municipal Building Needs Committee. Move that the town raise and appropriate a sum of $20,000 to fund the Municipal Building Needs Fund.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Mr. Cabral, would you like to speak to the motion?
We're basically replacing monies into the fund that we have expended over the last fiscal year.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 18, Chief May.
Kenny May, 492 Spring Street.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $8,675 to be expended by the fire department to purchase 5 new automatic defibrillators for the town.
Thank you. Is there a second? Awesome. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Chief May, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. We have 5 automatic defibrillators for the town. There's 1 in the town hall, 1 in the library, and I have 3 on apparatus. They've all expanded. They're over 10 years old, and they are unable to be updated in the future and need to be replaced.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I move for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Right. Article 19, Chief May.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $3,203 to be expended by the fire department to pay the town's share of a grant, if awarded, for a source capture vehicle exhaust system.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Chief May, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. I just see up there, this, we don't have in our station, there's a lot of new current regulations now that we have to abide by OSHA in Massachusetts and the fire service. The requirement that captures from the diesel trucks to almost eliminate the exposure to personnel that live in the station. The grant we wrote was $65,000, and fortunately that part of the grant is that I can't take that out of our operating budget. That's why it's on a separate line item. So if it's awarded, the town share will be $3,200 out of $65,000.
Thank you. Any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you.
Article 20, Chief Flaherty.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $43,703 to be expended by the Police Department to purchase and equip a new Ford Explorer all-wheel drive cruiser and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of the vehicle taken out of service in the best interest of the town.
Thank you. Second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Chief Flaherty would like to speak to the motion?
This will be just replacing one of our old cruisers, and that cruiser probably when it's replaced will have about 115,000, 120,000 miles, plus, like I said, all the idle time when it gets replaced.
Awesome. Anyone want to speak to the motion?
Neil Conley, 376 Walnut Street. To all respect the chief, I'm saying 115,000 miles don't seem like a lot of miles for cars today, and I know it idles a lot, because I remember Eldon in the past talking up, but we just replaced 2 last year for the K9 and another one now. This will be a second one. How many cruisers do we actually have, and are we going to go through one every year?
Well, we have a number of marked cruisers and unmarked for the detectives. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but usually we do have to replace at least one a year. I mean, in most years, one year, the following year usually 2, because you're getting to that 150,000, 120,000 miles. The cruiser that I'm replacing right now, I just had to put about $1,800 into it to keep it running, and drivetrain and some issues with it. So, yes, some cars can go, as a passenger car for individuals, but these are a little different. And with the idle time and the amount of time we use them, I think up to 120, 150 and 120 is accurate where we should replace them.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 21, Chief Flaherty.
That the town vote to transfer for free cash a sum of $49,150 to be expended by the Police Department to purchase a new updated public safety console system. We're going to get required to go digital, and we've been working on this for...
we need a second on that. Thank you. Okay, Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that. But we need to go full digital. A lot of the towns and cities around us are going full digital. We're unable to hear them. Our complete system is ready to go full digital, except for the consoles, which you're basically all you're seeing is a software program in a server. The current system was put in 2008. It's incapable to update to digital. So once we do the console here in dispatch center, we can go we can do full digital, and we'll be able to hear the surrounding communities in dispatch. Currently now, we only can hear them in the cruisers and on our portables.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 22, Mr. Iantelli.
Chris Iantelli, 268 South Elm Street. Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $59,262 to be expended by the Department of Public Works to purchase a new Veneer 1500 chipper.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen.
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Mr. Iantelli, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. This is going to be replacing a 22-year-old chipper that we have in the department. It's a 1500 model, which is exactly the size we need for our needs in the town. It's a diesel. It's going to take a 15-inch log. It's perfect for our needs, and we're going to get a $7,000 trade-in on our 22-year-old chipper that we paid $22,000 for back in the 90s, so it's a good deal.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak to the... any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. All right. Article 23, Mr. Iantelli.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $37,982 to be expended by the Department of Public Works to purchase a new Ford 150 4x4 pickup truck and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of the vehicle to be taken out of service in the best interest of the town.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
I recommend it unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. This is to replace a 1999 Ford two-wheel drive pickup that I've been driving for the last 20 years. So.
Right. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Right. Article 24, Mr. Iantelli.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $18,000 to be expended by the Department of Public Works for engineering and surveying services for site design of a new transfer station building.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
This is the first phase of replacing the facility down at the transfer station, the building that's there. We're going to do some site work, some engineering. We've got to design a septic system and locate or delineate our wetland areas, our borders, and then come up with a new structure for the attendant down there.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
The septic system. What do we're going to put a new building, tear that one down, and you're going to get all the plans drawn up. Then next year, unless you have a special meeting, we're going to come and borrow a sum of money, go for free cash. But we have a septic system down there, Chris?
There is some sort of septic. It's a cesspool.
Why I mean, I think there's only 1 or 2 people that might use it. I don't think the people live in it. Why don't we just have an outhouse like we do on construction? Well, you can laugh. It'll be a lot cheaper because I don't see why we're building a new building down there. I mean, it's not open like 24/7, and that's what we use on job sites. Just keep it clean.
Well, if you'd like to speak to the attendant and ask him to use the Johnny in the middle of January down there. Seriously. We have to have a facility. We have to have it handicap accessible. It has to be brought up to code. So
we don't even know what kind of building we're going to get.
we are looking at a metal building for next year at town meeting.
Please come to the mic if you want to speak. Right. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay.
Since we're speaking of the building, does this include evaluation and development of a septic system?
Speak into the mic, please.
I'm sorry, I'm short. And so it includes the building and the septic, the whole site work, everything?
The site design will determine where the septic system will go.
Okay, so it's in where the building will go?
Yes.
Everything, okay.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it. All right, 25. Mr. Iantelli, Article 25.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $105,375,000 to be expended by the Department of Public Works to purchase and install a new cold storage facility and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of the old facility in the best interest of the town.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Okay. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimous by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Mr. Iantelli, would you like to speak to the motion?
The existing dry storage, cold storage that we have on the property is the old salt barn. It's approximately 50 years old, and it's obviously in very poor condition. We have a new salt barn that was installed maybe 5-6 years ago. So this building will be removed, and we'll put up a similar structure, obviously, a metal building that will be used for our cold storage of equipment. In the summer, we'll move things in there that we use in the winter, and vice versa. And it's going to give us a lot more room in the main apparatus area.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. All right. Article 26, Mr. Golder.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $225,000 to be expended by the town treasurer to pay down debt on Article 24 of the annual town meeting of June 4th, 2018, the East Street, East Center Street traffic lights.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Golder, would you like to speak to the motion?
We're just looking to pay off some of the debt. We borrowed $513,000 last year. We take off the $225,000, and we'll just have to borrow the remaining this year.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. All right. Article 27. Mr. Iantelli.
Move that the town vote to transfer $80,000 out of Article 4 of the special town meeting of October 22nd, 2015, traffic signal design study for East Street and East Center Street, to be expended by the Department of Public Works, and to transfer the unexpended funds to a new account labeled Design Study and Engineering Costs associated with the reconstruction of sidewalks and intersections.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Anatelli, would like to speak to the motion?
We have made a huge amount of progress in the last year. As you know, you appropriated $100,000 for sidewalks last year, and we have gone for some grants and for some programs that Mass DOT offers, but they don't offer the engineering in the money. It's for construction. We are getting ready to do some serious sidewalk work in town, but we need the design money, and this is going to help out on that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Please come to the mic.
Hi, Mia McDonald, 369 East Center Street. I live at that intersection. So while it's on the table, just a quick question. When is that going to be done? I live at the corner. That Colonial is my house, and there are constantly accidents there. And we're just wondering when it's going to be done before you move on to other projects.
Hi, Chris. Denise Reyes. I've been speaking regularly with the engineer and in contact with Verizon, Comcast, and National Grid. We finally got National Grid down there. Comcast is scheduled to come down there this week, and we are waiting to hear from Verizon when they will come down, because what they need to do is move the lines from the old pole to the new pole, take out that pole, and then there's also a problem with the pavement. That needs to be remilled and relayed down. I am afraid to give you a date at this point. I'm keeping in contact with them almost daily and trying to get a date. I'm hoping Verizon will get back to us quickly and tell us when they'll move these wires. If I had to semi-commit to something, I would say the end of this month.
Oh, okay. So that too. No, it's just like I'm constantly seeing accidents there. I mean, I call the police probably more than anybody in the town. Like there's another accident here. So.
I sent an email on behalf of the residents and explained that $500,000 of taxpayer money was allocated to this job. And it was started in September, and here we are when I started writing in May, and it's still not done. And that it's really a sore spot because it is a dangerous intersection. There have been many serious accidents here, and we wouldn't have put $500,000 into it if we didn't think it was serious.
Of course.
So I do feel comfortable that the engineer is working very hard to get this done, and I'm hopeful the end of June. And I've been putting updates out on Facebook, and I'll continue to do that.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 28, Selectman Kinahan.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $100,000 to be expended by the Board of Selectmen for the construction of sidewalks.
Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Selectman Kinahan, would you like to speak to the motion?
As Chris had just mentioned, we're pulling together money from a bunch of different sources, hopefully a majority of it being through grants from the state, resources to build a number of sidewalks. I don't believe locations have been determined at this time, but it's pooling the money together and pre-planning for a major sidewalk project.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Hold on. Shuts down. I'm just curious, if we have $800,000 already allocated last year, do we have plans to spend that entire amount this year? Do we need another $100,000 this year, or can we wait till next year?
I don't believe there's 800.
I'm sorry, I must have misheard Chris.
We just
How
approved an
much
article for $80,000 for design, I believe.
I'm sorry, I misheard you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 29, Selectman Kinahan.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $14,000 to be expended by the Board of Selectmen to purchase netting for the turf athletic field adjacent to Route 106.
Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Selectman Kinahan, would you like to speak?
A few months ago, the Board of Selectmen established a committee to take a look at the recreational space in town for athletic fields. It's a long-term project and will take a while for the full project. But right now, we're looking at putting a net up at the turf field on 106 in order to utilize that field for soccer. And that will alleviate some pressure from the Howard School fields so that they can be better maintained. The total cost of the net is about $35,000. $14,000 will be coming from the town. The majority of it will be coming from the boosters and YEA, and some of it will be coming from the school department.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Right. Article 30, Mr. Sarro.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $171,341 to be expended by data processing to upgrade the network infrastructure.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Mr. Sarah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Our networks, a lot of the equipment's been in there since 2006, and it's getting old. A lot of it has reached end of life, so it's time to replace it.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 31, Ms. Holm.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $150,000 to be expended by the school committee to cover the costs of unanticipated and unbudgeted special education costs in the fiscal year 19 operating budget.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Ms. Hume, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. Donna Hume, 2 Wallace Way, member of the school committee. As a school district, we are required by law to provide in the least restricted environment a free and appropriate education to special ed students from age 3 to 22. An individualized education plan, or IEP, is the legal document that dictates the appropriate placements for each student, and in some instances, that placement may be outside our. When a child needs can't be met within our schools, we are responsible for the tuition and with sending the child out of district. The most unpredictable and unfunded costs for special education are a result of these outside placements. The reason we are asking for this money from free cash is because we had a number of unanticipated costs come up during the school year after we finalized our budget last June. First, in September, a family moved into West Bridgewater who had a child already in an out-of-district placement. We had to assume the cost for both the tuition and transportation for sending the child to the other school. Second, in October, we had an in-district service provider go out on medical leave for the remainder of the school year. In addition to paying the provider's sick leave, we also had to hire an equally specialized service provider as a long-term sub, so 55 students could continue receiving their services listed on their IEPs as required by law. Third, a student in an existing out-of-district placement developed the need for a one-to-one aide during the school year. And fourth, another student in an existing out-of-district program developed the need for a monitor on their transportation to and from their school. When these unanticipated costs came up, we did what we could to make up what we could. The school budget was put on a hard freeze. Starting at the end of October, the only thing that continued to be paid out was salaries. Reimbursements for supplies and professional development were suspended unless approved by Dr. Oakley. We were able to negotiate a cost share for the transportation monitor that I mentioned. We used what we had budgeted in our substitute teacher line to cover some of the costs associated to hiring the specialized service provider as a result of the medical leave. But unfortunately, despite these efforts, we still came up short, resulting in our need to ask that $150,000 be transferred from free cash in order to balance our FY19 budget.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 32, Ms. Sullivan.
Move that the town vote to accept Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 13E, to establish a reserve fund to be utilized in the upcoming fiscal years to pay, without further appropriation, for unanticipated or unbudgeted cost special education, out-of-district tuition, or transportation. The balance in such reserve fund shall not exceed 2% of the annual net school spending school district.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Ms. Sullivan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. Susan Sullivan, 241 South Street, member of the school committee. The state has recognized that it's very difficult, as Ms. Hume has just explained, for each district to budget their unanticipated special education costs and transportation costs related to that as well. This stabilization, or the establishment of this stabilization account, will help the district be able to plan for these unbudgeted costs.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 33, Mr. Golder.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $48,925 and from unexpected bond proceeds from Article 27 of the annual town meeting of June 4th, 2018, replacement of the library roof, a sum of $28,575 to be expended by the town treasurer to pay off and close said Article 27.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Mr. Golder, would you like to speak to the motion?
This is to close the library roof article from last year. We borrowed $77,500, but the project came in at under $50,000, so we're going to pay that off with free cash and then move the $28,000 out of the article.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Okay, Article 34, Mr. Lawrence.
Jerry Lawrence, 29 Ellis Ave, Chairman of the West Bridgewater Library Trustee. Mr. Moderator, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $10,000 to be expended by the library trustees to install interior and exterior cameras and other security associated items at the West Bridgewater Public Library.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thanks. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Lawrence, would you like to speak to the motion?
This matter is kind of self-explanatory, but many areas of the library aren't visible to the library staff, and quite often we're staffed with only 2 female staff members. It's the feeling of the library trustees that some security cameras so that the staff can see the alcoves and what's going on around inside and outside of the building would be most beneficial for the safety of the kids that use the library after school and during the days, as well as the staff.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Right. Article 35, Mr. Lawrence.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $10,000 to be expended by the library trustees to upgrade and move the network cabling, racks, and switch boxes at the West Bridgewater Public Library.
Thanks. Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously with the Board of Selectmen.
Mrs. Lawrence, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, the current technology is in a very large room that's used by a lot of the staff, and we're not able to keep the temperature right, the humidity correct, and as we're doing an upgrade to the system, it makes most sense to move it to an area that's not accessible to the public. And we'd also like to mention that the total cost of this project is $14,000 with a very generous donation to the Friends of the Library from Bridgewater Savings Bank. We'll be able to do it for the 10.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Article 36, it's a 2/3 vote. Selectman Moreira?
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $220,000 to be placed in the town stabilization fund.
Thank you. And just as a correction, it's a majority, not 2/3. My bad. Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Selectman Moreira, would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, only this is money that we put aside there will become handy as the time goes on. I think, Dave, we have an that is $2.8 million. Is that correct?
Yes.
In that thing, that's our bank account. A few years ago, we had nothing in there. We decided to start building this up, and over the years, and there's some day that it's necessary that we have the money there.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 37. That's 2/3. Yeah. All right, and that is 2/3.
Oh, wait.
No,
wait.
37 is majority.
That's majority too? What's going on with these notes?
38 will be.
Okay. Mr. Parks?
Move that the town vote to transfer from the water surplus a sum of $80,000 to be expended by the water commissioners to continue permitting of a new water source.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Parks, would you like to speak to the motion?
We've been working our way through permitting a new water source. We're probably a little more than a year into it now. The town sits on a few basins, but you're not allowed to withdraw from wherever you want anymore, or however much you want anymore. Our water withdrawal permit is actually up for renewal now. They're going to reduce our water withdrawal permit most likely. So currently, we're looking to permit a new source. We've narrowed it down to a few sites. This will continue on. We'll enter into discussions with DEP. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that would take a long time to explain now, but we've narrowed it down to a few sites, and this money will get us into discussions with Mass DEP to see if we can put it where we might want to put it.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. All right. Article 38. That's 2/3. Mr. Parks.
Pass without action?
No motion.
Whatever. So you have to help me out here.
If you're not going to move the motion, Wayne, just say that you're not going to move the motion.
We're not going to move the motion.
Excellent. Okay. Article 39.
The water board has decided that they don't want to discuss the article or attempt to bring it for passage. So as a result, they are informing the town they're not going to move the motion. Therefore, there's no discussion. There's no action.
Okay. Article 39. Mr. McCarthy.
Steve's not here. Paula Bunker, 123 North Elm, so I will be acting as a member of the Board of Assessors. Mr. Moderator, we're passing without action.
Okay. Thank you. No motion. Article 40.
Same thing. Passing without action on Article 40 as well.
Okay. Article 31. 41, sorry. Long night. Chief Flaherty.
Move that the town vote to approve a home rule petition, special legislation, and act relative to special police officers as printed on the warrant.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
We voted 6-0 to refer this to the voters.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend to recommend.
Okay. Chief Flaherty, would you like to speak to the motion?
See, presently, right now, under Chapter 31, a police officer in the town of West Bridgewater must retire on his 65th birthday, the last day of the month of birth. The problem that we're seeing is that some interpret this chapter and section as only full-time. So when individuals consider themselves part-time or specials that do road work and what have you, feel there's no end of life, even though this chapter and section basically says you must retire. But they're using the word special, and they consider this chapter and section full-time. So what we're doing here is allowing under the special legislation, is we're allowing a special police officer to work to the age of 70. So there's no more interpreting the age, whether it's full-time or part-time.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
On that note there, so you're saying instead of 65, they have to retire, now you're going to up it to 70, correct?
No, just like I said right now, the interpretation from some people is that this chapter doesn't involve part-time police officers. It only reflects full-time. So what we did is we put in the word special, same language, and we are allowing them to work to the age of 70.
At your discretion, at the chief's discretion, correct?
No, the process will not change. I recommend special police officers' appointments to the board every year, and the board will then vote on those.
Thank you.
Does this police officer get to start pulling on their retirement at the age of 65 and then continue to work?
If that person is a retired police officer, they are pulling their pension, and then there's a 960 hours limit to what they can work. So they're still held to the same standards they were held to today, but I'm just trying to take the interpretation of the law in future litigation away from West Bridgewater.
So does the monies that they earn then further increase their retirement benefit?
No.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Please come to the microphone.
He said, I can't fool this guy.
The chief mentioned future litigation. Is there current litigation that you're looking to bring this rule against to avoid? That was a horribly phrased question. Sorry.
There isn't any litigation as far as the age limit now, but other towns and cities have seen it, so we're just trying to get ahead of the curve.
Is this the first opportunity in the state for home rule petition on this, or has another town done this?
No, there's a number of towns that have done this, so we're not creating the wheel here. We're just basically trying to bring it to West Bridgewater and assist us.
So this language has passed before under a home rule petition?
I don't know if it's exactly worded exactly the same, but the exact principle, yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. That's a lot of paper. All right, Article 42. That's a majority vote. Who does this? Selectman Kinahan.
Move that the town vote to rescind in its entirety Article 43, fee schedule for sealer of weights and measures of the town's general bylaws as printed on the warrant.
Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommend unanimously by the Finance Committee, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended by the Board of Selectmen unanimously.
Thank you. Selectman Kinahan, would you like to speak to the motion?
So what we're trying to do is rescind this fee schedule that's in the bylaws so that we can adjust the fees as necessary, as we do with permitting fees for the building department, in the electrical inspector, plumbing inspector. So we want to be able to cover the cost of the sealer and weights inspector, and to do that we'll need to make adjustments to the fees periodically.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously.
You can see that there? It's a misprint there. We voted for both of them. Unanimously.
Right. Article 43, Mr. Dupuis.
Let the town vote to rescind in its entirety Article 51, cigar wrappers of the town's general bylaws as printed on the warrant.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee?
Refer to voters, 6-0.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Dupuis, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just in maintaining bylaws, at a certain point, bylaws no longer become necessary. In fact, the Select Board has decided to reinstitute the Bylaw Study Commission. This is one of the first bylaws that they took a look at. Due to changes in state legislation, the primary purpose of this bylaw is no longer valid. So at this point, we believe it should be removed.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 44, and that's a two-thirds vote. Right?
Yes.
Yes, that's a two-thirds vote. Mr. Hurley?
Hugh Hurley, Chairman of the Planning Board. Mr. Moderator, the Planning Board will not be moving this motion.
Okay. Article 45, that is also a two-thirds vote because it's a zoning bylaw. Mr. Hurley.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town vote to amend the town's zoning bylaw by amending section 6.3.1.1.e as printed on the warrant.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee?
We voted 6-0 to refer this to voters.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Mr. Hurley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes. To begin with, the Planning Board held a public hearing on Wednesday, May 15th, 2019, and the vote was 5 for and 0 against, recommending this motion to the town meeting.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Oh, sorry.
Yes. No, that's just required by law.
Oh,
we
okay.
have to make that
Sorry.
that finding. Now, if I may address it, and actually this goes in with the next thing also is the setbacks for a marijuana facility has come into question, and what was proposed was to bring it in line with what the state requires. We had it as a distance to a...
Well, this is
You're out of task.
Wrong one. Yeah.
45.
Okay. Let's skip the page. Thank you. What we're proposing is currently for an assembly or in a restaurant, it had been one parking space for every 4 seats. And as you look around at all the restaurants, the parking lots are always full. And what they're doing is they're using this. And we did a study. We compared it to all the abutting towns, what they were doing, and we came up with the number of one parking space for every 2.5 seats. And we feel this is much more in line with what is needed so that we don't have parking on streets, we don't have problems with facilities not having enough parking, people driving around, and it's just a more realistic thing. The old 1 per 4 is something that's been around quite a while. Now, this is only addressing the restaurants and the assemblies. We are not changing we have requirements for office buildings, for manufacturing buildings, and so forth. This is only for assembly and a restaurant.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Neil Conley, 376 Walnut Street. I was at the Selectmen's meeting when Mr. Burley was there. And when you build new buildings, new restaurants, this is fine. When you have existing restaurants like Nico's, they can't expand their parking lot. There's no way they can do it. You're going to hurt existing businesses. That business up there has been vacant for how long? Now we turned the business around. He has customers coming here. And that's a good thing. We have people at your restaurants in your town. That's the whole purpose. But this bylaw here is misleading because you have a small lot and you want to build on it left or right. You say you have to go to certain boards. They say your lot's not big enough. So you're going to put Nico's, you're going to make Nico's suffer. I'm asking the town not to support this. This ain't going to help you. And another thing, just say if you put him out of business, because you work your restaurants at a lunch, early dinner, a late dinner, then they have a few drinks and they go home. Are they parking out on 106? Absolutely not. Are they crammed in there where the fire department can't get in there? They can run a hose right out there waiting through the door. I'm just using that for example. How many people go to Nico's? You're going to pick on the poor man who went in there, put a business up there, and you're going to hurt him. A new business, this would definitely have to fall under. But I'm asking the town, don't be foolish, because, we went through hard times in this town. We need businesses. When they go out of business, people lose their jobs. We don't get the 1% sale tax, and we lose other things. So you just cause them more problems than that's worth. And you can say whatever you want, but this will affect those. If it don't affect them, then you make an amendment to change the wording.
Mr. Moderator, may I address that?
Yes.
So zoning bylaws do not affect uses that were in existence prior to the adoption of the bylaw. So existing restaurants and places of assembly, they would not be affected by this. They'd be considered what they call pre-existing non-conforming, otherwise called grandfathered. This would affect new uses going forward. So new applicants for building permits for restaurants would need to meet these requirements, but existing businesses would be grandfathered.
That don't say it in the warrant.
It doesn't need to say it.
I asked you earlier a question. You didn't have an answer. Now you have an answer, but go ahead.
Sir, I have an answer for you.
All right.
This is the law across the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
So you're saying, through the chair, you're saying that this bylaw, the way it's written, won't affect.
That's right. The town would not have the authority to remove the rights of pre-existing non-conforming uses. So no matter what the town zoning bylaw says, the town is not allowed to dispense with the rights of pre-existing non-conforming businesses. So they would be grandfathered.
So, all right, so Nico's wouldn't affect Nico's. I'm not here standing up for Nico's. I'm just using that as an example.
If Nico's is an existing restaurant in business, then whatever its parking requirements are, it would be allowed to continue to have.
All right, so this is all new, more or less new construction, like I said earlier.
That's right.
John Dupuy, 3 Katana Circle. Based on that statement of grandfathering, in introducing this particular change to the bylaw, I believe it was to address issues that are currently existing in the town. I mean, that's what was put forth. So the entire purpose of making this change now isn't actually going to address the issues that are being seen. So I don't know where we're actually headed with this change.
The Board of Selectmen had extensive discussion on this, and in recognition of a situation like Nico's, where there specifically isn't enough parking, we're looking to put something into play so in the future we do have guidelines to go by. This in no way, as Matt explained, does not affect any existing business. They are covered under the grandfather for being a pre-existing non-conforming use.
No, I understand that.
Right.
The question is, do you keep focusing on restaurants? But it's more than just restaurants. When you refer to places of assembly, I mean, technically under the laws, this is a place of assembly. Churches are places of assembly. So it's more than just a restaurant that we're talking about here. I mean, there's a great many other institutions that may be impacted by this. Say, for example, Grace Church came in at a later time than they did. I don't know if they would have been able to go into the facility that they're in now up at Hockomock. So, I mean, 2.5 versus 4 can be a significant amount. And is this something that we really want to consider in limiting businesses to expand our tax base and coming to town? Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, if I may, I was using the example that you can look around as what the problem is. I was not using it as we were going to fix those problems, because we can't. As the town council said, that is existing non-conforming or grandfather. What we're trying to do is, in the future, when something comes in, that it have adequate facilities that it should have. We are not trying to fix the past things. Those are all, as he said, they are existing non-conforming, and we're not touching that.
So I have a question as far as like a place where Malaki's is, which really never opened up as a restaurant. At what point does an establishment lose its ability to define itself as a restaurant through the bylaws and then not be able to reopen as a restaurant? Now, that's a restaurant there now, obviously does not have the 4-to-1 or whatever, the 2.5-to-1 space ratio based on its location. If the bylaw passes, does it then deem it that a restaurant could not go in there once this is passed because it's not being utilized as a restaurant at this time? Because, you know, like Nico's, for example, it was not used for an extended period of time, and restaurants do this at times. Would a place like that not then lose its zoning as a restaurant over a period of time?
If I may refer this to town council so I make sure it gets it right, there is a time period, and if you would explain it.
So pre-existing non-conforming uses can lose their rights if they're not used for 2 years. 2 years of abandonment can cause that pre-existing non-conforming right to be lost.
So given this fact, in the fact that we have one restaurant over at Malaki's not doing well, and we have the possibility of other small restaurants not doing well, and potentially closing for a period of time, with the zoning law being changed, do we then lose the opportunity to utilize those buildings for which they were purposed, which then loses us tax revenue and creates just ugly spaces for our town? Everybody drives by where Malaki's was, and it doesn't look good. It looks horrible. And I would hate to see that they haven't been there for about a year now. And, you know, another 9 months from now, nothing is going to go in there. And so for that reason, I would recommend that a no vote be placed on this. Thank you.
Mr. Marr, if I just may add one comment just based on that thought, is that if there are unique properties, that's what the variance procedure is generally for, properties that do have unique circumstances. And so I'm just suggesting to the town meeting that is a provision available to property owners when they have unique circumstances and they can't meet the bylaws.
So just to say, I know you're tired of hearing from me, but if we're having a hard enough time getting a restaurant in there as is, if they have to file for a variance, it's highly unlikely that they would fill it. So.
Mark Churchill, 2 Cornerstone Lane. I'm going to vote against this. Well-intentioned though I think it is, I understand the idea of us wanting to have lots of parking spaces at our restaurants and places of assembly. And I think that's a good thing if restaurants can do that. But there are some places, Nico's being an example, where they're limited and don't have an opportunity to really expand without taking on an exorbitant cost of purchasing a neighboring property that might be more than what they're going to be able to ever make back on that. And I think that what very well could happen as a result of this is we're going to have ebbs and flows, and recessions will come, and restaurants will close, and they may not open for 2 years, and you may find that you have vacant property for an extended period of time for a long while after that. And any minor benefits you get from, hey, it was easier to park at a particular restaurant or a place of assembly goes by the wayside, again, compared to the negatives of leaving a restaurant empty, again, job loss, tax revenue, et cetera, et cetera. Overall, I'm against it. Well-intentioned, though I think it is. Thank
you. Good evening. Howard Hayward, 147 East Center. So if this warrant passes or carries, with the proposed change of parking from 4 to 2.5, would this change the ADA parking criteria or requirement? Would it increase or decrease the ratio of ADA parking to overall parking, or would that not enter into it?
The ADA requirements are different. They have it's a certain number of spaces needed, and they have the ratios that you have to meet. This doesn't touch them at all.
Yes. Peter Turner, 390 Forest Street. Mr. Moderator, if the question is when does this take effect as far as grandfathering? Say hypothetically a new church opened up in town, and hypothetically it met the 4 and didn't meet the 2.5. Maybe after this had already had gone before a hearing, but before the town meeting, would it apply hypothetically to that organization?
That's a pretty involved question because generally religious institutions are exempt from zoning. Mass General Laws, that's Chapter 48, Section 3. They can be subject to certain requirements. For the purposes of this meeting, I'd have to study that question. But churches are probably not the best example because they are generally exempt. They can't be excluded from under zoning. They have to be allowed in all districts.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, sorry.
Mr. Moderator, maybe if I can just, in closing, all we're trying to do is have facilities that are built in the future have adequate parking, adequate facilities. We don't want to see somebody get in there and then he can't service his customers, or they're parking out on the street, or they're parking in front of the neighbors, the residential neighbors. They may be on the business district on 106 or Route 28, but the side streets have neighbors on them that are living there, usually right beside these. And where do the people go? They go parking up the side streets. All we're trying to do is have, when the facility is built, it has adequate parking to handle it, just the same as it's supposed to have adequate septic system. It's supposed to have adequate lighting. It's supposed to have the ADA. It's supposed to have all of these things adequate for the facility that is being proposed in there. That's all we're asking for.
Thank you.
This will be my last time. That's not what that says, though. All he had to say, new going forward. That's not what this article says. And regardless what I respect the lawyer. but besides the point. When you have a cookout, do you have enough spots to put them in your driveway? They're lying all up and down the street. Anything. You have a party, they line all up and down the street. So if they say this is future, new construction, or things like that, that's a no-brainer. But I think they can use this hammer over their heads, existing businesses.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Ayes have it. 2/3. Ooh.
Mr. Chairman, I require a secret ballot.
You need to have, how many does he have to have? 7?
For secret ballot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
didn't bring that file. Oh, I have it. It's in the town bylaw. This isn't.
Boy, look at the tie. I want to vote.
Right.
Yeah.
In the town meeting procedure, I think it's Article 2.
Right.
Article 3.
Sorry.
It's like 30 seconds.
Got to live through the well. Also, since we have no quorum, no one
Maybe requested by the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, or Moderator.
By 7 voters.
Also, need, 7.
You need to have.
Yeah. Yep.
He asked for a secret ballot. He needs to have 7 people.
Mr. Conley, if you want a secret ballot, you need 7 people to stand up with you for it.
I think he needs to make a.
We have it.
Okay.
All right, I need the tellers to be called up.
Tellers, please come up.
I don't see the point of the secret ballot, really.
Oh, there's fair.
I didn't realize this would be such a sensitive issue. There's a few people.
I didn't think this many.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you something.
What's spelled wrong? What's spelled wrong?
It's our thing. So you see it says unanimously?
Yeah.
That's spelled correct. On a couple of other ones.
Oh, I saw when it said unanimously with this a no.
Exactly. All right, well, this is for
Not a big
our
deal.
purposes. It's not a legal document. Yeah, unanimous.
At least we know what it says. So is John Dupuga involved in?
Okay, let me. Was this on? Hello? No, it's not.
was just mentioning the fact that
Okay. I wasn't sure if he was trying to say that he was on that committee.
I don't know. Let me go find him. You do your thing.
No, it is on now. A yes vote is to change the bylaw, a no vote is to not.
That's the trash. Okay.
So really, if you look at that with the next meeting, it's like whatever's later. So you can go out to the next meeting, and if there's one or two people that weren't there, they can just use themselves in the vote. So that's what I'll do. It's really not everyone from the board of selectmen that's a new member, but they still adopt the So that's how I would address it. That's the only way to address it, really. Well, that's the dilemma. There's always one other. I mean, there's always one other minute that needs to.
It doesn't look like that many for us.
How are you going to come? This is Article 45.
Where you want to vote, choice, yes or no, motion here. Okay. And we'll do a portrait together.
It's not as bad as I thought, now that I have.
Which one's the 50-50?
No. I was, yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah. I think it's because she's a sweet old lady that I love. Yeah.
So, Eldon, did you have to write yes and no?
or did you just, is there two different colors that goes in the box?
No, they give you the card there. Says yes or no.
So it's pre-printed yes or no?
Yeah.
Almost there. I'm thinking of like, oh, we're cruising through these. Yeah. No BS. No, I don't think I could be here. Yeah.
Did you vote? I did not vote.
I don't want to know.
Oh, sorry about that.
I said I don't want to know.
I was being behind. Oh, actually, I misunderstood what I saw. Strike that. I won't tell you where they are. What period it is. I'll tell you where.
So we.
What's up? Thank you.
Oh my.
Two-thirds required. It needed 84 to pass, and it only got 71.
So do I say that?
Yeah, so you can tell them that it was 71 yeses, 54 noes, total of 125. Needed 84 to pass by two-thirds. Did not happen, so the motion is defeated.
Fails.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Hello? All right. So. Now it is. Okay. So it got 71 yes, 54 no. In total, 125 votes. It needed 84 to pass, so the motion did not pass. All right. So, Article 46. Mr. Hurley.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town vote to amend the town's zoning bylaw by amending Section 7.8.1 as printed on the warrant.
Is there a second? Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the 6 members present.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Hurley, would you like to speak to the motion? And it is a planning board recommendation as well.
The Planning Board held a public hearing on May 15, 2019, and voted 5 for and 0 against adoption of this. This is actually, when it was presenting to us, these two were together, and I believe probably town council said they should be in two things. So what we have here, this is the definition of the word facility, and the next one will be the distance for a medical marijuana facility to be away. So the word facility in here is going to include the building and any parking areas, any improvements to the property. So it is, the way our bylaw had been written, it was to the property line. So the property line that the facility was on to the distance to a residential area was the distance. The state has defined what it should be in their regulations, and they're saying that it should be the facility and not the property line. And we, in looking this over, we wanted to define the word facility so that we knew that it was the building and the parking, and but it is not the whole property. So in the next amendment coming up will be discussing the distance, changing the distance from the property line to the facility. So this is just defining what the facility is.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Whatever. Where it says facility shall be defined as a physical structure where medical marijuana is cultivated, processed, and sold, as well as permitted guest and employees' parking spaces. I find it funny that it specifically says in here where medical marijuana is cultivated, processed, and sold. I understand that you're just trying to change the definition of the building or the zoning. However, we voted against medical marijuana. We voted against. We did not. We voted. Oh, medical. Everybody does. I can't. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. 2/3 vote. All right. Article 47. Mr. Hurley.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town vote to amend the town's zoning bylaw by amending section 7.8.5.10G as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? Finance Committee.
Recommended by a majority vote, 5-1.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommended by unanimous vote.
Mr. Hurley, would you like to speak to the motion?
If I may, again, the planning board held a public hearing on the date previously mentioned. This is just bringing it in so that in alignment with the state regulations where they're talking about the facility, whereas our old one talked about the property line. So as you see up there, we're striking the word property line of the premises on and inserting point of the facility is what the change is.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. 2/3. All right. Article 48. Mr. Hurley.
Okay. This is the last one, so after this we can all go home. Move that the town vote to accept in accordance with Chapter 82, Section 22 through 24 of the Massachusetts General Laws, Pearl Road as a town way as approved by the Planning Board, filed with the town clerk, and recorded in the Registry of Deeds.
Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee.
It was not recommended by a majority of the Finance Committee, 4-2.
Board of Selectmen.
Not recommended by the full Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Hurley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, this is a subdivision. It's up off of Walnut Street. It's called Pearl Road. Initially, it was going to be an adult retirement community. It was proposed to have, I can't remember how many lots. I think it was about 50 lots. They're all going to be small lots. It was going to be a gated community. It was modeled after one that was put in Easton off of Eastman Street, where they had the gate. You had to have the code to get in. It was going to be a community center. Everything was going to be a locked community, a secured community. The economy went bad. People couldn't sell the houses and move into these. The developer of it actually went bankrupt. The bank took it over, and a developer came in. At that particular time, this kind of building was not the popular thing, and conventional building was. and he built a conventional 23-lot subdivision. The roadway was all done, all to planning board standards. The only difference in this one is they do not have individual septic systems. There is a community septic system, and a homeowners association had to be created to govern this because it's owned by all of them. And there's also a couple of large tracts of land that remained open space. So the open space is also administrated by the homeowners association. It came to a point when the school buses couldn't go down a private road, and this private road is 2,200 feet long, which is just shy of a half a mile. And the residents were concerned, and they came to the planning board and to see if they could do anything. And at this point, the road had been built, everything was fine. We had gone through the punch list. There was numerous things that had to be corrected. Everything was corrected. Everything was done to standards. At a later time, a sidewalk got damaged, and they just recently repaired that. They did a good job. The highway assistant superintendent has inspected it, and he was happy with it. So what, the only difference here is there is a sewer line in the road that is going to require permission to be in a town road. Town council has already worked up the agreement for this, and in this agreement, the residents are going to be responsible for any work that's done on the sewer, any damage to the road that's done on the sewer, and they're also responsible for the drainage facility. It's got a retention ponds and all the drainage area goes in it. So the only thing is really different is this right to have a utility in a public road. But we have many utilities in public roads. In fact, in that same subdivision, we have underground electricity that's in the road. We have underground electricity in most of the new subdivisions that have been built in the last 20, 25 years. We have a private utility in many of our roads in the gas company. We have on Route 28, we have a major trunk line for the telephone company, underground ducts that go from Brockton to Bridgewater. So other people have easements on it. So this homeowners association will have an easement. Any damage that they do to the road, or in fact, once it becomes a public road, any work that they even propose to do on it, they're going to have to go to the DPW, they're going to have to get a road opening permit, they're going to have to post a bond to secure that it is all corrected, whatever damage they have in it, if it does, and probably it's inevitable that sometime or other a sewer line, something may have to be fixed on it, but it's covered in our town council. It wasn't some other attorney did it. Our town council, he wrote this agreement up with the stipulations in it, and it has been endorsed by the homeowners association.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Yes.
Jerry Scrunchie on Captain Carlson Way. I live on a private way. So does another member. We voted against this. The reason we voted against it is because this was designed as a private way, permitted as a private way. The deed restrictions as a homeowners association are to manage and maintain, just like on my private way. The town accepts this as a public road. It will start an onslaught of private ways wanting to become accepted by the town, including my street. Will be next. We have a common septic system. We don't have septic lines that run under the road, however, and I feel personally that's a lawsuit waiting to happen, that they'll say the snowplow did something to the septic line. It's really the town's responsibility. Two things. A, they went into this as we did on our street, knowing that it was a private way, and we accepted that it was a private way. Now, because the school buses can't come down the street, it's not convenient anymore. Second, last winter, we had an issue on our road with our manhole covers. They sunk for some reason from the plowing. Now, if it becomes a public road, guess who's responsible for that? All of you. So we have to think carefully about this, because you'll be accepting every single private way. This is going to set a precedent that's going to allow every single private way to become a public road. And we voted against it because we didn't feel that it was in the financial best interests of the taxpayer.
What you have, where you live, you're not on a private way. Yours was a 40B, came under the 40B provisions. You have one parcel of land with all of your units on it. You have a condominium. It'd be like across the street where the apartments are. It was not built to planning board standards. It is not a road. It is a driveway on one parcel of land. For you to do that, what you're saying, you'd have to divide it up, divide the property up, at least create the street, and it hasn't been done. It has a name as a street, but it really is just a driveway.
But that would not preclude every other private way in West Bridgewater from That would not preclude every other private way in West Bridgewater from following precedent on this. Am I correct?
Other private ways, in fact, the town has accepted some older private ways that, in fact, we did a bunch of them a number of years ago. But like in a subdivision that is built, it's still a private way. We have others we have several that are not finished, come into us yet because they haven't quite finished it. When they are finished and we take a vote on it, it is a private way, but the roads were built to standards, and then we try to bring them in. We try to have all the streets in as public ways. These, when people build a house in a subdivision, in fact, the whole idea of the subdivision law was to get access to the individual lots. Right in the preamble of the subdivision control law, it's to provide access to the lots, and that's what this roadway does. This roadway provides access to the lots. All of the lots are standard size. They're not undersized. There was a couple of construction waivers, minor ones granted, but the road was fundamentally built as every other subdivision is in town.
Art Cabral, 77 Walnut Street. You had mentioned about the agreement with the homeowners association, that they'd be responsible for fixing the pipe. I just wanted to be clear, there's more than just that pipe. There's gravity pipes, there's a force main, there's a pump station that I'm pretty sure is within what we would normally consider the road right away, if not at least partly on it. Is the homeowners association still responsible for all that under this agreement you're talking about, or is there a way that we can get stuck with maintenance for a 20-house pump station as well as some of the other stuff going on? Because there's a lot going on in that subdivision. I saw a lot of that go in.
So what it is it's a conveyance of the roadway. So it's a deed of the roadway, but with the homeowners association reserving its ownership of the septic system and the attached sewer lines. And so basically between the septic system and the lines, the intent is that they maintain ownership of that system.
Okay, so we don't get stuck with taking care of any of that in the future.
Right, and it stipulates that basically if they need to open the road to do maintenance, repair, or replacement of that system, then it's their responsibility to return the roadway to its condition prior to that work. And if the road was a public road, they would need a road opening permit to do that work. So that would be an additional way to regulate that work, similar to other types of utilities that need to open roads.
So what happens if the homeowners association goes bankrupt?
Well, whoever's doing that work on that it's owned by the Association of Homeowners. So it's hard to say it could go bankrupt, as it would be. It's a trust of the homeowners in the neighborhood. They're the only ones that would be able to do the work.
The homeowners agreement, they have fees that they are charged, and they have a rainy day account ahead. If something like that happened, I would think that it would be going back on property owners. But I have read the agreement, and I know what the fees are. They have fees that they have to take. I don't know the amount, but I know they do have a reserve fund.
Hate this thing.
Yeah, there's people ahead of you.
Oh.
Sorry. Paula Bunker, 123 North Elm Street. I mean, most of the stuff I had to say, I agree with Jerry. A lot of it. And the question Art brought up about the pump, all the other pipes and everything that's going on there. And yeah, if it does go bankrupt, is it going to be one of those things where, oh, well, they went bankrupt, so the town's just going to pick up the bill? Because, I mean, that's a very valid point.
So if the question is what would happen to their private sewer infrastructure, their private septic system and the private lines, if they went bankrupt, it would really remain their problem, because the town's not assuming responsibility for that.
I get what you're saying, but I find it hard to believe the town is going to say, geez, we're just going to, you guys are out of luck. The town being the town, I think we're going to end up footing the bill some way along the way. Because now, if we do accept this as a private road, and I agree with Jerry that we're going to have a lot of other roads that want to become into this as well, so now we're going to add on to the DPW. They're not going to have enough people. If we have, another snowmageddon like we did a few years back, we're going to need more equipment. We're going to need more manpower to maintain it. It's going to affect the school's budget, because now are we going to need another bus? Are we going to need more drivers? How is that?
Hey, order.
Oh, so we're adding a whole lot more stuff. And yes, I do understand that they're on the bus already, but it's going to add more things, because now you're going to have the bus driving down the entire street, because now we have the buses stopping at just about everything. So we're going to be adding on to that. It's going to take longer. It's going to increase everything. It's not just this one thing. So I don't know if that's been completely really thought out. I've been to some of the selectmen's meetings, so I've heard why they're not for it. But I'm just curious. I mean, Jerry, you voiced yours. Is that mainly why it was a 4-2 vote for what you were expressing?
Yes, and I'm not going to discuss why it was a 4-2. It's just that we felt that it was designed as a private road. It was permitted as a private road. The deed restrictions were put in place as a homeowner association to manage and maintain. They knew what they were getting into when they purchased it. Now, for the school bus reason and maybe something else, they've decided it's not convenient, and they want the town to absorb the responsibility of the road. And we didn't feel that was in the best interests of the taxpayers. Right, and we don't know how many more. And you know what? When you start getting into sewer lines under the street and a sewer issue, now that could impact the road. Now you're back to the DPW, who's going to fix the road. There's just so many issues. We don't know what their reserves look like. There's so many issues going on that the town wasn't involved in when they constructed the road. We just didn't feel that it was something that the taxpayer should get involved in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tim Hay, 235 South Street, Chairman of the Conservation Commission. And this, when it came before us, was sold to us by the developer as a homeowner association. We looked at it as a homeowner association, knowing and asking questions that this will never become a town road, a town development. Any infrastructure would be responsible of the town. We would have looked at it probably different had we known that this was going to be coming down the pike and we were going to be asked to take on more responsibility than what was sold to us at the beginning. I feel sorry for the kids having to walk a half a mile to the bus stop, but I believe state law requires them to walk a mile or more to the school anyways. So walking a half a mile up the street to the bus stop is not going to kill those kids. It didn't kill mine going over a mile to get to school every day. The town does not need to take more infrastructure on when it wasn't sold to us as part of the deal. I don't want to see this part of the town.
Jack Hughes, 640 North Elm Street. All with due respect, Jerry, I think the town was involved when this street was built because it followed the town's guidelines and it was built to the town's regulations of what the street should be built to.
Please talk in the microphone.
It's underneath it.
Those
Okay,
are,
I'm sorry. I just want to turn the mic.
But there's sewer lines under streets all over this state, and they don't really impact by what we do on top of the road. They're built to handle tractor trailers going down the street. I'm sure it meets the loading of a highway for a garbage truck to go down the street. They weigh just as much as a snowplow. I believe the town already plows this street. No? The association hires a contractor to do it? But if you look at the Chapter 90 money that we get every year, if we add this street to it,
We considered
get more
that.
money.
Doesn't come close.
But we get more money for.
Enough to, no, it's not worth it.
Yes. I want to just say that I think I'm for this. I think there's, how many houses? 23? They all pay taxes in this town, just like you and I do. They have a homeowners association. They have risk. I think we should be willing to take in the streets. And if there's other streets like, maybe not Captain Carlson, but other private ways, the intent of when we build a subdivision in this town is we're going to take on those streets as part of West Bridgewater, and that's what this is. It was built to those codes and standards. It can handle a tractor trailer going down there. I don't understand where the risk is. And I wish I could understand what the selectmen, how many voted for and how many against, and what were their reasons.
Yeah, they were unanimously against. When this thing came in, this didn't come in like a normal situation where it goes through the. We usually get reports from the highway commissioner, okay? Now, this went, I got this report just a few minutes ago. At 4:30 this afternoon, this arrived, okay? This was kind of as a last resort, okay? This didn't go before the Board of Health, the Conservation. I mean, I don't understand, this is going to open up Pandora's box, okay, to other communities, and I mean, to other streets that are involved here. And I can't, that's why I'm up here to try to vote in the best interest of the town. And to vote for this, as far as I'm concerned, is not in the best interest of the town. There's too many questions that are not being answered here, okay? I know what you're saying, they're taxpayers like we are, but they come in as a private road, okay? Now we've got other situations out there that we're going to open up. And now, and this is going to open up. I mean, we've got a very, very small highway department and things like that, and our school department. That's going to open up Pandora's box to an awful lot of things that, that we're going to have to pay for. Because we're running with a mob crew. We don't have a lot of service and police and the school. It's going to probably require another school bus up there. I don't think it's in the best interest of the town.
To the audience, if you want to speak, please come to the microphone. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, if I may just address a few things here. This was done just like any other road. It came through the planning board. The design was checked and verified by our consulting engineer. It went before the Board of Health. In fact, because of the common septic system, it was quite a bit through it. It did go through the Conservation Commission. They were very instrumental in the drainage design of it. The design engineer did do as-builts of it and certified its construction. We did go through. We had a checklist that we went through and made sure everything was right. We did a final one. That's when we noticed the sidewalk that was damaged, and that was repaired. This has gone through just like any other one did. To address one of the things that Mr. Cabral brought up, the only thing that is in the road is there's a gravity line and there is a pressure line. The pump houses are all located off of the right-of-way. They're on easements off of the right-of-way. They're not in the roadway. They're separate.
I'm one of the I'm Mary Anderson, 118 South Elm Street, and I'm one of the members that voted for this. I've spoken with some of the homeowners, and my understanding is they were told when they purchased the property that there was a restriction that there was a deed restriction on the property, but then once all the houses were built and all of the specifications met, that the road would become a public road. I know the highway department only does a quick pass-through. I know someone mentioned the snow plowing. I know they go through to make sure there's emergency access in case anyone has an emergency. If you're looking at the numbers of this, you're right, it doesn't make sense. But they've met all the specifications. They've done everything that they're supposed to do. If I was one of those homeowners, I'd be doing the exact same steps they are.
Thank you. Please come to the microphone if you have any new information to add to the discussion.
Hi, Justin Howard, 5 Pearl Road. So, I would like to ask Mr. Marrero, when we had the selectmen meeting in May, you had told me point blank that you would vote for this. I'd be curious to know what has changed between now and then.
I haven't got the facts or anything. They kept me cold on the thing. We didn't have. This is why the board did not vote for it when it came up to total before the board, because we didn't have all the facts. Okay.
Okay. I was just curious why there was a change of heart, because considering none of the information has changed. In regards to our children walking down the street just to walk, that's not the reason why we're looking for it. It's a public safety issue. Every single house on that street has multiple kids that needs to get down to the street in New England weathers, that have slippery roads, that needs to have sidewalks plowed. We don't have the resources to be able to have this completely cleared out by a professional service, which the town does. Our children are walking down. It's not because we are afraid that our kids are walking too far. That's a ridiculous claim. We are worried that our kids are going to slip, that it's not safe for them to be going up and down the road. And also, and as everybody else has said, we do pay taxes just like every single person in this room. It's not fair that we don't get the same services that everybody else does. We do have utilities going under the road, just like every other road in the city of Boston. There's no difference. We should deserve to have our street plowed and maintained by the town.
Turned it off. Okay. So the thing that I see here is actually a contractor's issue. You purchased your property from somebody who told you false claims, didn't provide you with sidewalks in a subdivision. There's sidewalks? Okay. So then, if you know it's a private way, and nobody cleans my sidewalks on my street either, and it is a public street, so just so you know, it probably won't happen. And my husband plows my driveway for me to go to work before the town gets to it. Needless to say, the subdivision was developed with the wrong intention in the first place, where it was supposed to be for senior housing, which is not what it ended up being. And where it had to become, where you guys, chose to build your houses, knowing it's a private way. We're in New England. It's a safety hazard to walk in the winter no matter where you go. and I'm sorry, but I sympathize with you guys, but at the same time, it does open up this huge can of worms. And unfortunately, if we have to take on the cost of clearing, sidewalks and streets, and now we're responsible for the safety of those streets, I just don't see it being in our financial best interest.
Real quick for a point of information. First of all, I lived up in that for 30 years. And when he's maybe at elderly housing, Marioni was a developer who was one of the scummiest scumbags out there.
Okay, let's...
All right. Time out. And the point is, what was up there beforehand was a dumping ground, just like behind Shaw's everyone's complaining about. So this developer came in here, put those houses up, and these people bought their houses. Apparently, whatever it is, right away. A few years back, I thought we did away with private ways. We turned them all over to the town. Last year, I think at town meeting, or 2 meetings ago, town meetings, we going to do a path right down the industrial park because the guy wouldn't do it, and it was a safety reason. So we're going to plow down a straight path down the industrial park. What are you talking to plow it? There's Chris Iantelli. How long would it take you to plow a road like that, depending on the storm? So more or less a half hour, if that, give or take. We have a lot of new equipment. The people just ask and help them out. They pay the taxes in this town. Houses across the street from me, $10,000. Sure, they did in associations. We don't do condominiums in this town, do we? We have a bylaw that bans them, or they just say haven't started yet. But I'm just saying, they've asked for a little handout. We help out other people. The money's there, the equipment's there, and the help's there. If he needs more help during the winter, what they do, they sub out and they bring in people to plow the roads.
You have to come to the mic to move the question. Yes. Is there any new information that's going to be presented?
I don't know, but I'll try. Kenneth LaGrice, 20 Pearl Road. In answer to your questions, some of them, one is it takes about 4 minutes to plow our road. Okay? There will be no additional equipment needed by the highway department. These expenses that are inflated by some of the boards here are just going to be non-existent. If you have plow it 5 times, that's 20 minutes. Figure 10 storms a year, 200 minutes. We're not talking a lot. Add in some salt, I don't care. It's not, the plowing of the road is not the issue. We've agreed to take care of the sewer line, the drainage system. If the water line goes, the town is still going to have to come in, tear up that road, and they're going to have to pay for that because the town owns the water. Okay? We don't get a break on our taxes. We pay the same rate as everybody else, and all we're asking is for the same services. As far as other private roads in the city, before a city or town, I believe, can accept a road, it has to meet certain standards on the Mass General laws, which we meet those standards. And if every other private way in the city meets those standards, they should be adopted. They should be able to adopt those private ways and plow those and take care of those roads all. They add to all the Chapter 90 funds. Granted, it may not be a huge sum of money, but if you cut out every road in the city and make it a private way, we won't get any chapter. Oh, by the way, I think we spent $322,000 in Chapter 90 funds today for something. Still, they don't mean something to the town.
Thank you.
All we're asking them to be treated like everybody else, okay?
Thank you.
Please move the question, Mr. Moderator. I think I only have to be standing. I don't think I have to approach the mic.
Is there a second? Okay, we move to a vote.
Speaking has a right to speak, not move the question. Move the person that's interrupting the speaker.
We have to vote on moving the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Ayes have it. All right, now we're going to move for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Ayes have it. What?
Jason.
Wait, hang on.
No, it's a majority vote.
It is? It's a majority?
Yeah.
Hang on.
To end debate is a 2/3. To accept the vote is a majority.
Our notes are conflicting. One
I see
moment.
your point, yeah. So what is it? To accept the road, that's a majority vote.
It's just a majority. It is just a majority vote. Thank you. With that being the last article, I call for a motion to dissolve the annual town meeting. It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Annual town meeting has been dissolved.